Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Get ready for heart-pounding action, thrilling adventures with fresh and unique elements, a touch of romance, and a dash of harem. Everything you're craving is right here. We're excited to have you join us on this journey. So come along to Novel Love Hearing, we're waiting for you. As a small favor, please consider sharing Novel Love Hearing with your friends, family, in YouTube comments, on Discord, Reddit, or anywhere else you hang out online. Happy listening, and enjoy the ride. Let's head out. Wu Hang said. Chi Hengkai spoke into the walkie-talkie. Depart. The convoy moved, speeding forward. On Xinbiao Road. It was a road specifically constructed for the factories in this area. The road surface was smooth and there were no congested vehicles that one would find in the city. On both sides were vast windbreak forests, but in winter, they were all covered with snow. The convoy progressed smoothly all along the way. After entering this road, the vehicles didn't stop. Along the way, the occasional scattered zombies were swiftly killed by the cavalry as they passed. Their bodies were flung to the roadside. Just up ahead, that factory area is the place you're looking for. I didn't lie to you, Liu Chang said, looking down and pointing ahead through the front windshield. Looking forward, one could see a vast factory complex. Tall perimeter walls, barbed wire, and structures like watchtowers were spaced out along the wall. Inside, some factory buildings and structures could be seen, resembling a small city. That's it, chiefs, this is as far as we go. If we move forward, we might encounter zombies, and we wouldn't be of any help, so we'll not go any further, said Liu Chang, looking for an excuse to leave. While he spoke, a voice from the lead vehicle came through the walkie-talkie. Sister Chi, we can see zombies wandering around the factory up ahead, getting any closer might start a battle, the voice said. Wu Hang said, stop the car. Chi Hankai held the walkie-talkie and instructed, slow down, convoy, stop. The convoy began to slow down and pulled over to stop at the side. With a single thought, Wu Hang sent out two ghosts, who swiftly flew towards the distant factory for reconnaissance. On the vehicle, Liu Chang coughed lightly and said, well, we've arrived at our destination, we're gonna head back now, and about the food you promised. Don't rush, Wu Hang interrupted, taking out a map of the provincial city from the passenger side storage box and handing it over. Help me mark the locations, the bustling commercial street, where the gold shops are concentrated, the locations of some important factories, and the location of the provincial rescue team. Mentioning the provincial rescue team made Liu Chang's heart skip a beat. But he thought his communication with the rescue team shouldn't be known. Okay. Liu Chang nodded and began to mark the spots one by one. Done marking, Liu Chang handed the map back. Get out of the car, Wu Hang commanded. Liu Chang carefully edged past Skeleton's position, opened the door, got out, and walked towards his van. Wu Hang glanced over and said to someone behind him, Karam, go kill that man and the two people with him. Karam got out of the vehicle and walked quickly toward the van. Liu Chang panicked and began to run. Karam caught up within a few steps, and with his long sword, he decapitated the man. Then, he leaped onto the hood of the front car, the long sword piercing through the glass to kill the driver in the driving seat, and with a twist of the sword, he killed the remaining person. The movements were fluid and executed with clean precision. Sister Chi, King Skeleton has killed those people, someone reported through the walkie-talkie. Chi Hankai responded, it's fine. They were passing our information to others, and it seems the king has found out. Understood. Chi Hankai continued, a few of you come down and check what's in the vehicle. For those who want to smoke or use the toilet, sort it out now. Got it. Chi Hankai got out of the vehicle, and the drivers of the following vehicles also opened their doors and began to step out for some fresh air. After all, they had been traveling the entire day. Inside the truck, only Wu Hang was left. Soon, Zhao and Glenda returned from their exploration. Zhao's form gradually became visible. Uncle, there are second-level mutated zombies inside, as well as third-level evolved zombies. Glenda also said from the other side, Spirit Vision can also see the levels of the mutated zombies, it's quite handy. Zombies do indeed have levels after transformation. It should make sense for Spirit Vision to discern them. Are there many mutated zombies? Wu Hang inquired. Zhao nodded, quite a few, at least 5 or 6, but it's not much pressure for you, uncle. Even if there were more, it wouldn't be as many as the time we fought the pirates, where there were more high-level ones. That was when all the major and minor pirates of the Emerald Sea came, of course, there would be more high-level ones, Glenda remarked. That's exactly what I mean. Zhao whispered, leaning on Wu Hang's shoulder. Wu Hang said, let me have a look, and then we'll go take down the zombies. Okay. Zhao and Glenda burrowed into his body, front and back. The next second, 2 sets of images were shared with him. Within the vast courtyard, 2 ghosts swiftly scoured through one building after another. Many buildings were clearly damaged by major fires or explosions and were unrecognizable. The rest also displayed varying degrees of damage. There were at least 5 or 6 second-level mutated zombies. And in a room of an office building, the figure of a zombie appeared in the view. Wearing a blood-stained suit, its head bloomed like layers of unfolding ganoderma fungus. Between the crevices of the ganoderma, a pair of eyes watched. They stared at the ghost hovering in the air. According to the level displayed, it was a third-level zombie. But from its external appearance, it also somewhat matched the description of a fourth-level mutated zombie that Honkai had mentioned. Zombie King? The level wasn't high enough. Chapter 489, Go Catch That Kid. The zombie with its peculiar appearance made Wu Hang somewhat skeptical. From the spirit vision of the ghost, it should belong to the category of a third-level zombie. But wearing a suit and being able to sense the invisible ghost immediately, its intelligence and sensitivity were much higher than the third-level zombies he had encountered before. It seemed more like a fourth-level zombie king, mentioned by Honkai. He released the two ghosts again, letting them float in midair. Are we going to fight now? Zhao asked. Wu Hang replied, that zombie in the suit is a bit strange, very much like the new type of zombie described by the headquarters, with a danger level of 4, equivalent to the strength of a level 18 professional. Just that one? How is that possible? It doesn't even look as fierce as Big Guy. Zhao said. Glenda pondered for a moment and then said, 2 possibilities. Let's hear it. Glenda continued, one is that you humans on this side can't accurately judge the level of the new zombies, falsely perceiving it as more threatening and classifying it as 4th level, when its true power is actually 3rd level. The second possibility is that the new zombies can hide their strength, appearing as 3rd level but actually being stronger. Wu Hang nodded in agreement. Those two were the only explanations that made sense. It is hard for more possibilities to exist, considering zombies have, to a certain extent, lost human-like thinking. Glenda smiled and said, whether it's 3rd level or 4th level, it shouldn't be too difficult for you. What's there to fear? It's not fear, just the need to be prepared. I don't have many skeletons to spare, and we can't just rush in. Lately, he had also come into contact with level 18 professionals several times. They weren't as terrifying as he had imagined. Even if the zombie king reached the level of a 4th level mutated zombie, it wouldn't be a big problem. That's true, Glenda agreed. You two stay invisible and follow me closely. When the time comes to fight, I'll rely on you for reconnaissance, Wu Hang said with a smile to both ghosts. Don't worry, Zhao immediately promised. Glenda nodded in agreement as well. The two ghosts became invisible, and Wu Hang also opened the car door and stepped out. 3 bodies were dragged over. Liu Chang's was the most tragic, with his head separated from his body, his eyes wide open, showing the fear he felt before death. Honkai came over and said, I've checked the van. It's got some machetes, iron pipes, and homemade explosives. Looks like they were planning to go down with us. Go down together? Liu Chang sold the intelligence to the rescue team to exchange for some rewards. How could he possibly want to go down with himself? The possibility of going down together is not large, probably because they were afraid of some danger. It's also a bargaining chip for negotiation, Wu Hang said. Makes sense, a lot of movies do that, Honkai smiled. Wu Hang's gaze returned to the bodies, and he released, communicate with the dead, towards Liu Chang's head. The head suddenly opened its eyes, the cloudy eyeballs struggling to look this way. Wu Hang asked, is the rescue team coming? The body answered, I don't know, they didn't give me a clear response. Wu Hang continued to ask, if they are coming, which route will they take? The body answered, they should also circle to this road. It's impossible to cross the entire city area. Wu Hang then asked, how long do you think it will take for them to get here? The body hesitated, then slowly said, even if they started preparing when I informed them, it would take over 5 hours to arrive here. Wu Hang thought for a while and then asked the 4th question, is the location you marked on the map accurate? The commercial street, the gold shop gathering area, are accurate. The position of the provincial rescue team was randomly marked by me. Both Wu Hang and Honkai's brows shot up. This guy really wasn't honest. It seemed that in his heart, he had already made up his mind to trick them. The final question. Wu Hang followed up, where is the provincial location? Be more specific. It's on Dongying Street. There's a little rock city there. They've set up a base there, but whether they have other strongholds, I don't know. After answering 5 questions, the head's eyes immediately closed. Honkai stepped forward and kicked the head away. Bastard, we give you food for leading the way, and you still try to screw us over. Considering the current situation, the 5 bags of food that Wu Hang and his group offered for guidance were definitely not unfair to them. In any shelter, that would be enough to buy so many lives. This Liu Chang, He'd been thinking about screwing them over all along. If they hadn't been with him the whole way, he might have even made out the location of the factory. The head flew in an arc, kicked away. Wu Heng released Bone Command Technique, and transformed the other two bodies into skeletons. Chi Hengkai then asked, "What do we do? Should we wait for the people from the province to come before deciding whether to attack the factory?" They had a total of 13 trucks, carrying just over 7,000 skeletons. They didn't have the kind of numbers like the tens of thousands in the city area. If there was a battle up front and the rescue team arrived, they would be caught in a pincer attack. That could easily become dangerous. Capturing the chief of the largest base in Xinfu City would mean a continuous supply of food. Wu Heng also pondered for a moment and then said, "No problem, 5 hours is enough for us to finish the fight. After that, we will deal with the rescue team." Chi Hengkai had nothing more to say and nodded, "All right. Let everyone get ready, and hurry up when changing ammunition for the skeleton flying dragons, speed it up." "Understood, I'll get right on it." The skeleton flying dragons descended from the rear. Survivors began to replace the ammo drums. A swath of skeletons climbed out of the truck beds. Amongst the sound of clashing bones and weapons, a large group of skeletons formed a tight formation at the very front. Chapter 489, Go Catch That Kid. The spear thrusts forward. Wu Heng said to those next to him, "Glenda, stay by my side and scout the surroundings. Zhao, keep an eye on that zombie in the suit inside the factory area, and notify me immediately of any movements." "Got it." "Understood." Two voices answered, one from the left and one from the right. Glenda shot straight up above head level, while Zhao flew directly toward the direction of the factory area. Wu Heng pressed the walkie-talkie and asked, "Is the ammunition ready?" The voice of Chi Hengkai came from the walkie-talkie, "Everything is ready." Wu Heng said to Big Head Skull beside him, "Arrange for a skeleton to draw the zombies over here." A skeleton squeezed out of the ranks and walked briskly toward the front. When it was still at a distance, it stretched out its skeleton fist and banged twice on a nearby sign. The loud noise immediately drew the aimless zombies' alert gazes in this direction. The skeleton turned and fled backward. Roar, roar, roar. The horde boiled with activity, roaring loudly, and rapidly spreading out in every direction. The surrounding zombies quickly gathered. Like a tide, they chased after the skeleton in front. Even within the factory, the number of zombies seemed considerable. They filled the entire street, a mass of black. Wu Heng ordered, "Send out the skeleton flying dragons." Whoosh whoosh. The sound of cleaving air rose as the skeleton flying dragons flew overhead. Reaching the air above the horde, the bomb bays opened, and a dense iron rain fell from above. Boom boom boom. Dust and smoke rose in all directions. The whole road trembled non-stop. As the dust cleared, Wu Heng's eyes suddenly narrowed. A large group of zombies split instantaneously to the left and right, charging into the forest land beside the road. They covered the entire woodland in an instant. Shuttling between the trees, they continued to rush in this direction. As I thought, it can command the regular zombies. The likelihood that it was the Zombie King increased. Tighten the formation, protect the convoy, and prepare to meet the charge, Wu Heng quickly ordered. The skeleton formation began to contract backwards. Surrounding the convoy in the middle, they formed a formation similar to a circular defense. The bombing by the skeleton flying dragons was more effective where zombies were more concentrated. This method of dispersing in large numbers could indeed greatly reduce the casualties caused by the bombardment. "The ammunition is loaded," announced the voice of Chi Hengkai. "Have the flying dragons spread out and bomb the woodland," said Wu Heng. The skeleton flying dragons took off again, reaching the airspace above the woodland, dropping solid iron bombs. A thunderous boom sounded once more. Trees snapped in half, mud splattered everywhere, leaving craters scattered across the area. Zombies in the woods were instantly shattered, their flesh and blood sprayed all around. More zombies had already reached the vicinity of the skeleton troop. The chaotic footsteps and the stench of vomit-inducing decay hit them in the face. In an instant, hordes of zombies threw themselves into the ranks of skeletons. Dense spears jabbed forward incessantly, piercing through the bodies of zombies over and over again. Bang bang bang. The skeleton manning the machine gun on the off-road vehicle, from a high vantage point, began to fire at the back of the zombie horde. The sound of gunfire burst like popping beans, flickering with flashes of light. Large numbers of zombies fell to the ground, while just as many rushed forward in succession, baring their teeth and flailing their claws, trying to break through the skeleton's defense line. In the fierce battle, some zombies were pushed and rolled over, breaking through the defense. They were then chopped to pieces by the axe-wielding skeletons behind. The scene was bloody and horrific. The survivors kept transporting ammunition, reloading the magazines for the skeleton flying dragon. But fear was written on everyone's faces. Even though it wasn't their first time following the convoy to kill zombies everywhere. But previously it was an overwhelming style of fighting. Now these zombies seemed to use tactics. They were no longer like mindless beasts. "Chi, Sister Chi, we won't be in trouble, will we?" a survivor asked with a pale face. Chi Hankai was also busy with work, glanced at the outer perimeter of the battle, her face serious. "Don't talk nonsense, when have we ever failed to clear zombies? It's different this time. Sister Chi, I just got married last week." Chi Hankai's face turned stern, and she scolded, "Nobody wants to die, you all better get to work, because if someone screws up and delays the fight, I'll skin you." Everyone shrank their necks and continued with their tasks at hand. But listening to the zombies' roars within 100 meters and the strong stench of decay made some shiver. Wu Heng quickly issued commands. At the same time, he released Battleground of Remains, and a mass of dead bodies rose from the ground, reaching for the zombies that were charging from all around. Then, Glenda flew down from the sky, pointing to the rooftop in the distance. "Look over there, those zombies are just standing there." Perception enhanced, her vision was also much higher than that of an ordinary person. Following the direction she pointed, several figures could be seen standing at the edge of the rooftop. At the forefront stood a zombie in a suit, hands behind his back, with no difference from a human's physique, standing there, overlooking the entire battleground from above. On either side of him stood Big Guy, Crawler, and several other second-level zombies. As Wu Heng carefully observed him, the suited zombie, as if sensing something, turned his head to look in his direction. Perception that high? Wu Heng was somewhat surprised. Wu Heng withdrew his gaze, looking at Glenda. "Is its level still 15? "It is, but it seems a bit stronger than before," Glenda said. Wu Heng frowned. "Then it's probably the Zombie King." Glenda floated to another side, suspiciously saying, "Is your luck always this good? I only heard about the Zombie King a few days ago, and today we've encountered it." Wu Heng glanced at her annoyedly. "We're in the middle of a battle, stop mocking me." Chapter 489, Go Catch That Kid. Glenda smiled and flew back into the sky to continue monitoring the surroundings. Wu Heng continued, "Send out 2 of the skeleton flying dragons, and have them bomb that building for me." Whoosh! The pair of skeleton flying dragons flew out directly. Under scrutiny, they rapidly approached the building where the Zombie King was located. However, as the skeleton flying dragons approached, the Zombie King led a few other mutated zombies to retreat and disappeared. The flying dragons also reached the airspace. Solid iron bullets poured down onto the rooftop like a torrential downpour. Thick smoke rose from the rooftop. Dirt and rocks burst apart, and the whole building shook violently. The horde of zombies below, which was engaged in battle, also became disorganized, no longer surrounding the team in a flanking manner. They began to regroup along the main road, advancing forward. The remaining skeleton flying dragons charged out again, bombing along the road. The surrounding zombies perished en masse in the melee and under the sweep of the machine guns. The advantage once held by the zombies was instantly reversed. Rustle. At the same time, the advancing horde of zombies suddenly stopped their charge. They continued to bare their teeth and roar ferociously towards the front but began retreating step by step. All retreated back to the location of the factory. Wu Heng had Glenda confirm the number of zombies inside the eyes. Most of them had died outside. There were less than 10,000 zombies left inside. Chi Hankai, get everyone on board and follow the skeletons to push forward. Wu Heng pressed the walkie-talkie and said directly. "Copy that." Chi Hankai called for everyone to pack up and return to their vehicles. They followed the skeleton army, beginning to advance along the road. Wu Heng held the spine staff, starting to release Battleground of Remains along the road, as skeletons rose from the ground one by one, joining the ranks of the skeletons. In no time, their numbers doubled, crowding protectively around the convoy. The skeleton army moved mightily towards the factory gate. The army confronted the zombies inside. Wu Heng then gave the order, "Machine cannon, get ready, wait for my command." After speaking, his gaze began to search for the figure of the suit-wearing zombie. Pinxian service station. Vehicles bearing the rescue team's flags had surrounded the modest-sized service station shelter. Inside the service station lobby, all survivors from the base were gathered here. Across them sat a young man with a buzz cut and a blue sweater, his gaze coldly sweeping over everyone present. He said, "I am the captain of the 5th rescue team. Did you all send a message to the rescue team?" Everyone remained silent. The man's gaze narrowed. "Speak." The woman who monitored the radio spoke softly with her head down. "Yes, it was Boss Liu Chang who made contact." The buzz-cut man nodded and continued to ask, "How long has it been since that convoy left?" Another man stepped forward. He answered cautiously, "It's been about 2.5 hours." The buzz-cut man's team had been scouring for supplies nearby and rushed over upon receiving the message. They had thought they might catch the other part but were surprised to find they had left so quickly and without any delay. The buzzcut man then asked, "The number of people and vehicles, tell me about them." Cautiously answered, "They left about 2 hours ago. They have a lot of skeletons. Most of their vehicles are trucks with 4 off-road vehicles equipped with machine guns, plus 2 armored vehicles." "They have armored vehicles too? Do you know what an armored vehicle is?" "Yes, the 6-wheeled machine cannon armored vehicles, there were 2. The buzzcut man's eyes lit up. "So the other side really had armored vehicles. Okay, I am quite satisfied with your answers," said the buzzcut man. At that moment, one of his subordinates returned, "Captain, there isn't much good stuff, but we found about 30 bags of grain." The buzzcut man nodded, "Leave half for them and take the rest." The survivors' faces changed. They were already struggling to survive the winter, and now it seemed even harder. But confronted by the cold barrels of guns all around, none dared to say anything. They watched as the food was taken away. After leaving the service area shelter, the group boarded the trucks and armored vehicles. The buzzcut man picked up the vehicle-mounted walkie-talkie and said, "Let's go to the factory. If we catch that brat, we won't have to worry about food anymore." The timing was just right. It was very likely that at this time, they were engaged in battle with zombies. He could block them if he went over now. Once the person was captured, they might even be able to take over the factory. Then back at the base, it would be considered a great achievement, allowing for the allocation of more resources for his own team. Thinking this, he became increasingly anxious. He urged, "Speed up." Chapter 490, Level 18 Zombie King Hoo-Hoo. The skeleton flying dragon swept over the factory from above. Solid iron bullets whistled death as they plummeted swiftly. In an instant, the roar was everywhere, turning everything on its head. Piles of zombies, turned into chunks of flesh in the bombing. "Attack!" Without waiting for the dust to settle, Wu Heng gave the order directly. The skeletons lined up tightly, spears forward, starting to push forward step by step. Forcefully squeezing into the gate, they began to fight with the zombies blocking inside. Sharp weapons pierced flesh and blood. The growls and howls of zombies filled the entire area. Apart from the discovered zombie king, the number of zombies posed no threat at all. The cleaning of the city's tides of the undead before each battle was many times more than the current number of zombies. The zombie king delayed appearing. The number of zombies decreased rapidly amidst the slaughter of the skeleton army. "Wu Heng. There's a group of zombies circling around that way. It looks like they're trying to attack the convoy in the back." Glenda flew down from above and said quickly. "Is there a zombie king?" "No, but there are second-level zombies and lots of those evolved zombies you talked about," replied Glenda. In other words, this was a sneaking team. The commanding zombies were now capable of using tactics as well. Wu Heng glanced at the direction Glenda mentioned about the zombie sneak attack group and tossed the silent blade evil sword from his space ring to Glenda. "Go take care of some. Be careful with the range, don't hurt our own people." Glenda caught the evil sword and advised, "Be careful yourself, I'll be back soon." Wu Heng nodded, and Glenda quickly left. "You go help too, speed it up." Several level 15 skeleton attendants beside him drew their weapons one after another and joined the fray. They swiftly killed the zombies along the way. Outside the factory, in the woods, 3 second-level mutated zombies and more than 200 evolved zombies ran swiftly through the woods. On the path they must cross, a long sword unsheathed, floated in midair. Shua. The sword light flashed by, and the head of the leading big guy zombie rolled on the ground. Shua shua shua. Then the second, the third. As they charged into the range of the special item, heads fell to the ground one after another. The few evolved zombies trailing at the end suddenly stopped. They started running in the opposite direction. The floating evil sword directly charged after them. The factory location. The ground was covered with zombie bodies. Those still able to resist the skeletons were dwindling in number. The remaining time needed to continue the push was all it would take to clean up all zombies. "Uncle, that zombie king is out," Zhao flew down quickly. Bang. While Zhao was speaking, the windows on the 3rd floor suddenly shattered. Along with the sky of falling glass shards, the zombie king in a bloody suit rode on a second-level crawler and fell from the sky. Then, it broke through the scattering skeletons and fled toward the back of the factory grounds. Escape? He had thought the other side would charge over. But it was fleeing instead. The zombie king, riding on the crawler's back, turned its grotesque head to look behind as it retreated. Staring at Wu Heng's position, its eyes filled with hatred and resentment. It indeed possessed higher intelligence. They couldn't let it get away. Once it left here and regrouped zombies in the city, it would be even more dangerous. "Block them," Wu Heng ordered directly. As his words fell, Kerm and the level 17 skeleton fist master, Chuolga, lightly tapped their feet and dashed out like arrows. A horde of axe-wielding skeletons also started to run wildly. Bypassing buildings, they pounced over, dragging and hacking at the fleeing pair of skeletons. In a blink of an eye, the fleeing crawler was adorned with a host of skeletons upon it. Ho! The fog rose on the periphery. In the next second, Karam's figure appeared behind the Zombie King. Sitting on the crawler's back, the Zombie King glanced backward, and its decaying skin swiftly covered with a layer of black keratin, ducking its head to avoid the beheading strike. But it also suffered a deep gash that reached the bone on the back of its neck. Immediately after, the wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, flesh reconnected, and keratin covered the surface once more. Karam swung his long sword again, aiming for the Zombie King. The Fist Master Hyuga also stood in front of the crawler, his fists striking out in unison. Bang! With the blast and shock wave, the fleeing crawler rolled backward. Throwing the Zombie King off its back, the crawler tumbled several times and was submerged by the surrounding swarm of axe-wielding skeletons. The Zombie King rolled on the ground, slowly standing up. Grabbing its twisted left arm with its right hand, it clicked and snapped it back into place amidst audible crunches. Muscles writhed, regaining their normal state. Its eyes swept quickly around, and it dashed wildly to one side, still aiming to flee the scene. Karam and Hyuga quickly followed, their swords and fists ceaselessly attacking. Striking at the target. Both skeleton attendants were level 17, and they belonged to professions highly skilled in close combat. Even though the Zombie King's intelligence had improved, his skills and abilities still couldn't compare to those of close combat professions. The black keratin offered strong defense, even the fierce attacks of the two skeletons only twisted body parts or left wounds. Yet the Zombie King's regenerative ability had reached a terrifying level. It was basically healing at a visible rate to the eye. Bang bang bang. Wu Heng, from behind, set up his sniper rifle and searched for a target to shoot bullet after bullet. The bullets swiftly pierced through the Zombie King's body. And at the broken spots, they were still wriggling, healing bit by bit. When healed, the bizarre Zombie King started to run away again, focused solely on leaving the area first. Such strong self-healing abilities. This detail filled Wu Heng with surprise. No professional, even at level 18, possessed such strong self-healing capabilities. Bones could be restored, and cuts could heal back to normal in just a few seconds. That's too terrifying. If any professional could have this ability, their survival capability would be frightening, and they'd save a fortune on elixirs. Watching the Zombie King start to scurry around, using the terrain to avoid the encirclement of skeletons, Wu Heng's brows also furrowed. He didn't have time to run circles with a zombie like this, as the rescue team might arrive at any moment. If the battle hadn't ended by then, he might find himself in a difficult position. He handed a chain to the level 18 Great Fist Master Kaizayu next to him and said, "Kaizayu, go over there and kill it." Kaizayu picked up the chain and with a push off his feet, charged directly into the fray. Quickly bypassing the skeletons in front, he closed the gap between them and directly threw the chain from his hand. Before the Zombie King could react, it swiftly ensnared his waist, and its other end connected to Kaizayu. The gladiator shackles, once connected, would only open upon one side's death. The connecting chain began to steadily shorten. No matter how much the Zombie King struggled, it couldn't escape the special item's effect. Now at close quarters, Kaizayu's fists, tipped with tiger rings, bombarded the Zombie King like a torrential downpour. Within the carapace, explosions began non-stop. Black, viscous blood sprayed unceasingly from the blasted wounds. Even with such strong regenerative power, facing the unending punches powered by the Great Fist Master's domain fist intent, the healing couldn't keep pace with the spreading injuries. As bones were consecutively shattered, the body slumped to the ground limp. The chains remained connected, meaning it was still alive, not dead. Karam, chop off its head. The fog skill was released once more. Karam appeared behind the paralyzed Zombie King, his long sword slashing down, getting stuck in the neck bone. Then, he exerted force again. Crack. The neck bone broke. The head fell to the side. After a brief twitching on the ground, the chains opened, disconnecting the two. The skeletons returned to a standby mode, proving that all zombies in the vicinity had been killed off. Wu Heng walked over for a look and issued another order, instructing to clean up the battlefield and collect all the corpses. Whiz. All the standby skeletons sprang into action and began to clean up the battlefield along the way. At this time, Glenda also flew back and seeing the surroundings and the bodies on the ground, said in surprise, "That was fast." Wu Heng glanced to the side. "The kid is here, watch your language." "No, I mean, you killed the Zombie King so quickly." "I thought I might have to wait a bit longer," Glenda said. "It leaped out on its own, otherwise fighting inside a building would have indeed taken much longer," Wu Heng commented as he kicked the rolling head back to its place. "Yeah, I was saying there's no need to worry too much about you with your current capability. Even level 18 might not be able to defeat you. Glenda spoke up, handing back the evil sword. Zhao also nodded in agreement. Uncle, you're much stronger than before. Thanks for the acknowledgement. You too, Wu Heng said, keeping an eye outside. I'm not sure if the rescue team will come. Keep watch for me. The two ghosts nodded and took to the sky once again, to keep watch. Wu Heng took out the walkie-talkie and ordered Chi Hengkai to bring the convoy over. His gaze then returned to the body on the ground. A level 18 zombie king. Chi Hengkai had mentioned it before, and he hadn't expected to have killed one just after arriving. Bone manipulation skill released. The flesh fell away, and the skeleton slowly stood up. Skeleton demon, level 18. Zinbia Alu. The rescue team's convoy stopped by a road juncture. Someone checked the zombies' corpses beside the road and stated, Captain, these were all killed with cold weapons. Seems to match what the service station reported they used cold weapons in combat. The crew cut captain chuckled, they don't have much ammo, what we traded them is countable. Yeah. But those two armored vehicles are still quite dangerous. The captain asked, how much longer until we reach the factory area? About 40 minutes more, then we'll be able to see it, someone replied. With a sneer, the captain said, let's hope they haven't all died, get in the car, and let's hurry over. Yes. Chapter 491. Help with defense coordination, skeleton demon, level 18, attributes, constitution 50, strength 35, agility 42, intelligence 32, perception 34, charm 5, traits, hollow skeleton, advanced soul, regenerative traits, abilities, nest domain, keratin carapace, expertise, biological aberration, constitution mutation, regenerative traits, non-fatal bodily injuries can be quickly reorganized and repaired. Nest domain, within the domain, the skeleton demon can pass commands to the surrounding attached attendants. Keratin carapace, forms a thick keratin layer on the surface, which provides a certain level of defense and resistance to strikes. Wu Heng looked at the skeleton's attributes. It all felt a bit strange. Attribute-wise, no weaknesses could be seen. Constitution 50, Strength 35, Constitution 42. Fully meeting the requirements for a high-level melee profession. A level 18 skeleton grand boxer only has a constitution of 48. 50 is already a very high attribute. The subsequent attributes are also not low. Intelligence 32, Perception 34, while not as high as his own constitution, still not considered low for a professional. Charm 55 is unavoidable. After being transformed into a skeleton, there's a certain disgrace. After reviewing the attributes, Wu Heng continued to look at the specialties and abilities below. There are 3 notable ones in total. Regenerative traits are for non-fatal wounds that can be quickly healed. After the transformation into a skeleton, this trait was inherited as well. This is quite good, but it's unclear how it's manifested on the bones. Can broken parts be reattached? It's still not clear. Nest domain is obviously an evolved version of Big Head Skull's abilities, to control skeletons more broadly, no longer needing to frequently issue commands to waves of hundreds of skeletons. Keratin carapace forms a thick keratin layer on the surface. This ability. I remember seeing it on level 3 mutant zombies. In other words, besides rapid increase in attributes, this zombie king inherited various zombie traits. Is that how he became the zombie king? You'll be called Commander Number 1, stand aside for now, named Wu Heng. The skeleton demon stepped forward, vigorously shaking off the filth on its body. First, take off that suit, I'll find you a new one later. The skeleton demon took off the clothes on its body and threw them aside, then walked over to the side. At the doorway, corpses were divided into 2 piles. Ordinary corpses on one side, evolved zombies and mutant zombies on the other side. Wu Heng walked over and released, corpse battlefield. The flesh fell off of the corpses on both sides. Skeletons rolled out from the pile with noises, then shakily stood up. Wu Heng instructed the skeletons to move aside and started to search for corpse cores among the pile, collecting them into his space ring. I took some people to check the factory in the back. Part of it is burned down. Seems there was a big fire, but another part is rather intact. The warehouse contains a lot of machinery parts, not sure what they're for, and there's also ammunition, boxes of it, a large reserve, said Chi Hengkai, coming over with a smile on his face. Just the ammunition in the warehouse made their trip worthwhile. Is that factory for producing ammunition? Asked Wu Heng. Seems like it, there are even casings there. Wu Heng asked again, can production be restored? Chi Hengkai frowned in thought. Even if the production line is intact and ready to go, powering such a large supply chain is a problem. Even if we use all the solar panels we have left, I'm afraid it won't be enough. Wu Heng stroked his chin, feeling that this did indeed make sense. Using electric lights or one or two appliances doesn't seem like much. But to get a factory back into production is not an easy task. Every factory consumes a tremendous amount of electricity. Let's check the situation first, Wu Hang said. As they talked, Wu Hang paused in his steps as Glenda entered his body and shared a vision into his mind. In the distance of the road, several convoys were rapidly approaching. From Glenda's high-altitude perspective, she could see armored vehicles and trucks. The rescue team had arrived. According to Liu Chang, it would take more than 5 hours to come from the base. However, the speed of their own battle was much faster, so how did the other party arrive here at least half the time earlier? The bodies couldn't lie, and Liu Chang was a driver who had been on the road for years and had a certain grasp of time and routes. Which meant that they didn't come from the base, but from somewhere midway. Is there a problem? Chi Hangkai asked. The rescue team's vehicles are here, Wu Hang stated, then turned to the big head skeleton and said, order the skeletons to bring the armored vehicles and machine gun trucks over, get ready. Vehicles started up. Skeletons began to make room, and one by one, the vehicles moved to the entrance. The weapons were facing outside. On the road, the vehicles bearing the rescue team's flag began to slow down. Sets of eyes peered through the windshield towards the distant factory. It seems too quiet. Haven't we come too late? Everyone's already dead? They have vehicles, even if they were losing, surely someone would have fled back, right? They wouldn't have seen they were outmatched and simply left without fighting, would they? If that were the case, we should have encountered them. The people in the convoy started discussing. Apparently, there was no noise of fighting coming from the distant factory. It was more likely that everyone had fled. The crew cut team leader, sitting in the back and smoking, took a deep drag, blew out a smoke ring, and said, deploy a drone, see what's the situation. The window rolled down, and a drone was thrown into the sky. It flew ahead, and the images appeared on the vehicle's display along the way. But just as it approached above the factory, it barely glimpsed the skeletons and armored vehicles. Suddenly, a floating stick came crashing down upon it. The drone shook and fell with a bang, losing its signal. The people in the vehicle widened their eyes while watching the display. A stick was floating in the sky and had knocked down the drone. Moreover, those guys from Xinfu City who controlled the skeleton seemed to have taken over the factory. Captain, they've taken over, someone remarked. How did it happen so fast? Have all the zombies inside left? What do we do now? Everyone seemed unsure of what to do next. The captain thought for a moment and then said, let's approach. It's better if they've taken over. We came with armored vehicles, and we can't just return empty-handed. Right. Someone picked up the radio and started ordering the vehicles to continue approaching. All along the way, they rolled over the blood-stained ground and came directly to the factory's main entrance. The vehicle door opened, and a team member stepped out, carrying a radio to the entrance, then turned and left. A skeleton from inside came out, picked up the radio, and brought it inside. You talk to them, Wu Hang handed it to Chi Hangkai. Soon, static came through the radio, along with a man's voice, how should I address you? Chi Hangkai. Ah. Leader Chi, I respect your reputation. The voice on the other side was slightly surprised but clearly recognized him. And, how may I address you? Wang Xin. So, Wang Xin, what is it? There was a silence, then the voice spoke directly. We're responsible for security and rescue coordination within the province. We heard that you were attacking the factory and proposed to support you, only we're a step too late. After a slight pause, it continued, we're here to assist you with defense. The remaining defense and deployment work can be negotiated between our two bases. Chi Hangkai's brow furrowed, and an expression of irritation immediately surfaced on his face. We took it down, and you come to negotiate the spoils. This is blatant theft. Chapter 492. The battle begins. Wu Hang stood to one side, his eyebrows furrowing as well. From the central command, there was an encouragement to occupy and make use of the original materials. By coming here, they resembled the nearby mountain overlord, demanding a share of the territory we had taken. Chi Hangkai looked at Wu Hang and continued, you want a slice of the benefits for free? Fine, but let's trade for them. I think that armored vehicle of yours is pretty good. A sneer came from the other side, am I discussing a trade with you? The resources of the entire provincial capital need to be unified in deployment. It is for better restoration and construction. You acting on your own has already disrupted our original plans. Chi Hangkai didn't want to waste words. Go back, you won't gain anything here. Go bully some small shelters instead. After all, Chi Hangkai was the one whom Wu Hang entrusted with managing 2 cities. He certainly wouldn't hand over supplies just because of a few intimidating words. If that were the case, then the trade stations in the other cities could no longer operate, as every day someone would threaten to seize food. There was suddenly a heavy silence from the other side. A few machine cannons slightly raised their barrels. Through the walkie-talkie, filled with a menacing tone, a voice rose again. Leader Chi, times have changed. Your skeletons, armed with cold weapons, can deal with zombies, but can they fight armored vehicles? Don't joke with your own life. By now, the threat in his tone was quite clear. Chi Hengkai leaned closer to Wu Heng's position, feeling much safer, and then continued to press the walkie-talkie. Guess what? Do your Deputy Commander Liu and Deputy Commander Huang dare to speak to us in this way? We have fought our way here from Xinfu City. Think about whether you could win against us. The other side seemed to have underestimated their strength, attributing their combat ability to skeletons armed with cold weapons. But upon reflection, it was unlikely they truly looked down on them. Otherwise, with the boastful and overbearing way they spoke, an ordinary small force would probably already have let the armored vehicles smash through. There was a level of wariness in their hearts, thus they attempted to make them yield the factory willingly through words, and share it with them. The walkie-talkie burst to life once more. You have 5 minutes to discuss. If a fight breaks out, our reinforcements will arrive quicker than those from Xinfu City. After that, there was silence from the walkie-talkie. Chi Hengkai then looked towards Wu Heng. What should we do? It seems they won't give up easily. Wu Heng pondered and then said, hand me the walkie-talkie, and you go to the back. If a fight really breaks out, make sure there are no issues there. And you? Modern weapons have a very long range. Wu Heng smiled. I'm not stupid enough to stand outside. I'll hide when the time comes, don't worry, they can't do anything to us. Hearing him say this made Chi Hengkai feel a bit more at ease. He nodded, handed over the walkie-talkie, and walked towards the back. Wu Heng also quickly moved to a safe position to avoid being caught in the crossfire if the battle truly commenced. From the high floors of a building, one could see the positions of both sides. At that moment, Zhao appeared beside him and said, Uncle, I smashed 2 planes to pieces. Wu Heng had also seen the drones being shot down. For taking down individual drones, Ghost was quite effective. In the future, if any missiles were incoming, making Ghost detonate them in midair might also work. Awesome. Glenda also emerged from another side. They don't have many people on their side. This kind of battle isn't about the number of people. I know. Your 4 armored vehicles took out hundreds from the pirate group, said Glenda. Wu Heng replied, the lethality is significant. Later, go and take out the people inside those armored vehicles. Glenda nodded. What about me? Asked Zhao. Zhao, you protect me. I'll be counting on you if there's danger, Wu Heng responded. A smile instantly spread across Zhao's face. Okay. Seeing that no new orders were given, Glenda vanished once more, quickly flying towards the distant vehicles, and slipping into an armored vehicle. In the aid team's armored vehicle. Captain, the 5 minutes are up and there's no message from them. Someone said. The crew cut team leader flicked his cigarette butt out the window crack and picked up the walkie-talkie, saying, wait for my command, be ready for battle, prioritize taking out their armor. Arm. Suddenly, the crew cut team leader's voice stopped. The others looked over, puzzled. They saw the leader's mouth wide open, his face red from straining, his eyes filled with terror. His neck twisted grotesquely to one side, making a crunching noise. Captain, what's wrong with you? Captain? Crack. Amidst the bewildered inquiries from his teammates, the captain's neck turned 180 degrees to the back, coming face to face with the team member behind him. Everyone's eyes widened at the same time. They had never expected their team leader to die in such a bizarre manner. The enemy killed the captain, someone from the back row shouted. Then, his body suddenly seized up. He pulled out his handgun from his waist, switched off the safety, and with a bang, shot the driver in the pilot's seat, then turned the gun on himself, placing it under his chin. No, don't. Bang. The gunshot rang out, and the last man fell into a pool of blood. The sound of gunfire passed through the open window out into the open and also attracted the attention of others. Over the vehicle's radio came a voice of inquiry. Captain, what's happening inside your vehicle? Armored Vehicle 3, respond if you receive this. I'm Deputy Captain Wei Gui, taking over command of the squad's actions. All units fire towards the target. Successive voices came from the walkie-talkie. Bang bang bang. 3 armored vehicles spat flames back and forth, firing toward the front. In the blink of an eye, the courtyard's gate instantly shattered, walls exploded one after another, and pieces tumbled down. Meanwhile, Glenda quickly crawled into the next armored vehicle, where gunfire erupted inside. The machine cannon ceased fire. Then the 3rd vehicle, and the 4th. Within less than a minute of the machine cannon firing, the 4 armored vehicles ceased shooting one after another. They fell into a state of stagnation. And in the opposite gloom of dust, dense figures wielding battle axes gradually came into focus. The machine gun pickup and the people on the truck watched the shapes emerging from the smoke, those that seemed to walk straight out of hell, and involuntarily swallowed their saliva. Damn it, why are there so many? Weren't we told there weren't many? There seemed to be more than zombies. Someone picked up the walkie-talkie and asked, "Captain, Deputy Captain, please respond if you hear this. Why have the armored vehicles stopped attacking? Should we continue the assault? Please instruct the armored vehicles to keep firing." The convoy began calling out, but no one responded. Tramp, tramp, tramp. At that moment, a dense, noisy sound of footsteps arose. Groups of skeletons burst out of the smoke, filling the field of vision, and charged fiercely. The remaining people in the convoy's faces went pale. The skeletons in front of them were several times the number they'd been informed about at the rest area, and they were still charging out non-stop. "Fire, fire now!" the people yelled. The machine guns swiveled, while those on the trucks grabbed their rifles. Bullets madly strafed downwards. Chapter 493, Opening a Factory on Gold and Silver Island, returning 1,000 words to everyone. Large swaths of skeletons were hit by bullets, while even more skeletons surged from different directions, encircling the convoy. The pickup was flipped over, and the people on the truck were dragged out and hacked to death. Those trying to drive away were also smashed into the hoods of their cars by the iron frames seized by the skeleton flying dragons. The vehicle swayed and collided with the trunk of a tree by the road. The people inside the car were directly killed by the skeletons. The battle did not last for too long. The only unexpected event was that the armored vehicles indeed opened fire. They bombed the inside of the factory area. Even though the skeletons had been evacuated from their positions beforehand, there was still significant loss. It felt pretty good bombing pirates. But it never occurred to me that today it would happen to us. Glenda flew back from a distance. "It's over, their leader is dead, and the deputy has taken over command, just a bit slow." "No matter, compared to the gains, these losses are within the acceptable range," Wu Heng said as he walked out of his hiding spot. 4 armored vehicles, plus the machine gun pickup, the truck. That was quite a harvest. It's like delivering a batch of supplies to oneself. When he came back down, the entrance of the factory was pitted with bullet holes. Several corpses were dragged right to the entrance. Looking at the bodies, Wu Heng said directly, "Strip off all the clothes from the corpses." A few skeletons bent down and began to pull off the bulletproof vests and helmets from the bodies, placing them aside. Who was their leader? Glenda pointed to one of them. He was the leader. Wu Heng immediately released Communicate with the Dead, and the body suddenly sat up from the ground. Its head turned around to look at them at a strange angle. Wu Heng asked, "What orders did the provincial rescue team give you?" The body answered, "To approach Factory 35, to accompany and monitor your movements." Wu Heng raised an eyebrow. "Didn't they order you to attack us?" The corpse replied, "They didn't say explicitly, but I thought the timing was right to attack and take control of your leader." Wu Heng nodded. The provincial rescue team hadn't given direct orders. 2 things could be inferred from this. One is that the rescue team didn't want to be too domineering since the central station was giving orders to rescue teams everywhere. Another possibility was that they knew of Wu Heng's strength. After all, he had made several trips to Xinfu City to exchange supplies. Wu Heng continued to question, "Tell me about the situation inside your rescue team." The body paused for 2 or 3 seconds, then answered, "The provincial rescue team is controlled by 3 forces, the military rescue team, Tancheng Group, and a few members of the Huang family." Wu Heng frowned. How did the rescue team have so many people split off? The body explained, "At the beginning, the base lacked supplies, and many people could not survive. Rewards were given based on the supplies and information brought back, including weapons. The Tancheng Group and the Huang family quickly accumulated manpower and weapons, gaining a certain say." Wu Heng analyzed the meaning of the words with a frown. That is to say, the military had distributed weapons as one form of reward. But later on, they found that these weapons provided the Tancheng Group and the Huang family with military support. Having reached a certain level of power, they consequently gained influence. That's probably the right understanding. But upon reflection, it was unavoidable. If the weapons weren't distributed, then it would be difficult to carry on with pioneering or collecting supplies. Once distributed, uncontrollable situations could arise. Not distributing firearms and weapons on a large scale to other survivors at the start was probably the right choice. It could easily cause complications. One last question. After pondering, Wu Heng asked, "Will the rescue team come looking for trouble with us because of your deaths?" The body answered directly, "They will, because I am Huang Guangping's son." The 5th question concluded, and the body collapsed back to the ground with a thud. Huang Guangping? The team captain was from the Huang family of the rescue team. No wonder he didn't follow orders. I had previous contacts with the military market and Deputy Commander Liu. We sought after mutual benefits. But we didn't resort to whatever means necessary. He wasn't really from the orthodox rescue team. Wu Hang continued to question 2 other corpses, gaining some understanding of the entire rescue team. The base's population was around 5,000, and their weaponry was still quite abundant. There were at least more than 20 armored vehicles. There were also plenty of firearms and ammunition, though the exact numbers were not clear and had never been counted. After roughly understanding the situation, Wu Hang did not continue to inquire further. The remaining corpses were all converted into skeleton warriors. They join the ranks. Arrange for skeletons who can drive to bring those vehicles in, and then find some materials to repair the wall, Wu Hang instructed someone nearby. A few skeletons hastily went out. They righted the overturned pickup, reversed the truck that had hit a tree back onto the road, and drove the armored vehicles into the yard along with them. Meanwhile, more skeletons started to collect debris to temporarily rebuild the collapsed perimeter wall. Chi Hengkai also came over from behind. After glancing around, she asked with concern, "Are you alright?" "I'm fine, take me to see the factory production line you mentioned. Then have someone look around to see if there are any blueprints left nearby. Since the rescue team was coming to the factory to sell blueprints to us, there should be a place where they store blueprints," Wu Hang said directly. Chi Hengkai nodded, took out the walkie-talkie, and briefly instructed the others. At the same time, he led Wu Hang to the factory building at the back. The entire factory occupied a large area. Dormitory buildings, a canteen, and a basketball court, all were well constructed and complete. Even more so, it felt better than the prison, and it lacked that oppressive feeling. They arrived at the back. Most of the factory buildings had been burned down by a great fire. Perhaps because of some accelerants, the fire had been fierce. Some metal objects had been melted down into slabs of iron. The remaining factory buildings were separated by a large clearing in the middle. So they were not affected. The 2 of them turned on their flashlights, using the dim light to make their way inside. The ground and walls were covered in scratch marks and bloodstains. Then, Wu Hang saw the equipment Chi Hengkai had mentioned. The workshop was relatively intact. A long production line still had unassembled ammunition on it. From the specifications, they were producing 23mm rounds. Indeed, they were machine cannon rounds. Wu Hang felt a surge of joy in his heart. If production could be restored, they would no longer need to worry about the quantity of ammunition. The other factories also have small arms bullets, a pretty complete variety, Chi Hengkai said with a smile. The haul this time was quite satisfactory. It at least met the goals set before they set out. "It would be great if production could be restored," said Wu Hang. Chi Hengkai nodded. "I had a brother from the motorcade who knows about equipment take a look. He said it's well preserved and that we could resume production with the provision of working electricity." I'll find a way," Wu Hang responded. The 2 did not continue looking and left as it indeed grew dark. Wu Hang arranged defensive positions for the skeletons. Chi Hengkai called some people to clean up the dormitory building. The rest, including inspecting the other areas of the factory and searching for blueprints, would wait until daylight. Chi Hengkai led Wu Hang to the prepared dormitory and whispered, "Should we tell the rescue team what to do with those people?" After thinking for a moment, Wu Hang said, "Just say they left. Where they went specifically, we don't know either." "Would they believe that?" "Whatever we say, they won't believe us. It's just an excuse," Wu Hang replied. "All right," Chi Hengkai nodded. Wu Hang opened the door and entered his room. He opened the boundary door and walked in with his skeletons. On Gold and Silver Island, dusk was just approaching. Wu Hang left the study and headed straight to the alchemy room for skeletons. He grabbed an organ jar from the shelf beside him, set it down in front of him, and took out a 4th-level corpse core. It resembled a small brain, veined with dark purple vessels. Opening the jar, he placed the corpse core directly inside. Now, since the level 3 corpse nucleus potion had not yet been created, the 4th level would definitely be more difficult. But the abilities of a zombie king were still something to look forward to. The visible regeneration rate was horrifying. Even if the bones in the body were smashed or twisted, they could quickly return to normal. It wasn't exactly immortality, but the self-healing ability was exaggerated indeed. Next, Wu Hang took out a plastic bag containing other mutated corpse cores. 4 second-level cores and more than 300 first-level cores. All were handed over to ordinary alchemy skeletons for potion production. Having dealt with the corpse cores, Wu Hang descended from the upper floor. Minnie and Andre Willow had finished their dinner and were training in the exercise room with the guidance of training skeletons. Asking the skeleton chef to prepare some food, Wu Hang sat down at the dining table to eat while listening to Minnie and Andre Willow discuss the day's events. "Willow, who did the zoning for the island?" Wu Hang inquired. Andre Willow thought for a moment. "I think it was a dwarf designer, but I can't remember his exact name. Can we get in touch with him?" "He works in City Hall." Do you need him to come over? Andre Willow looked inquiringly. Wu Hang thought for a moment. It's not good for him to always come to our house for everything. Have him meet me in the Chamber of Commerce conference room tomorrow morning so I can discuss the construction plan for the smaller islands. Yes, master, she replied. After a simple dinner, Wu Hang returned upstairs while the two ladies went back to the training room for another session. In the study, Wu Hang poured himself a glass of water and sat down in his chair. Leaning back, he couldn't help but ponder the events at the factory that day. Killing the rescue team members would undoubtedly escalate the tension between them. Since there were 3 factions within the opposition, the likelihood of direct conflict was not great. But he would have to make preparations. The production chain in the factory was fairly intact. If he could restore production, he could address the ammunition needs. Raw materials, electricity, I need to think of solutions. Materials were actually not hard to come by. Gunpowder, the required metals, whether it's copper or steel, the other world could supply them. Gold and Silver Island was a gathering place for chambers of commerce from all over. Procuring these resources shouldn't be difficult. No, constantly transporting raw materials through the boundary door is also a bit too troublesome. There's also the matter with the rescue team. If I am not here one day, they might just bombard the factory with a few shots. Chapter 494, Pay some money. Upon hearing Philippa's words, Wu Hang also recalled this pirate group. The Mad Lion Pirate Group was also a very famous large pirate group in the Emerald Sea. And after the last battle at Gold and Silver Island, since the flag of the Mad Lion Pirate Group had been found, it was deemed to have been eradicated, and the bounty on them was removed. Now they have reappeared, intending to continue robbing ships on their routes. Either the Mad Lion Pirate Group did not fully participate in the battle at Gold and Silver Island last time, or they were fortunate enough to survive and have reassembled a new pirate group. Philippa's voice came through again. Fuming with rage, it was this pirate group that tricked me into going out, claiming I was a spy for the association. If it weren't for the 2 friends I had among the pirates, I might have died at their hands. Wu Hang's brow furrowed. He had heard Philippa mention her exposure and imprisonment by a pirate group before. Now, it seemed, it was done by this Mad Lion pirate group. He thought for a moment, then said, the pirate group hasn't changed their flag, so it's quite possible that their captain is still alive. Be careful when you approach. As for the ships commanded by Philippa, defeating ordinary pirates still wasn't a problem. But level 15 professionals could still be in danger. Philippa continued, then I'll use that device you gave me. You said ammunition was scarce, so I've been reluctant to use it. Go ahead, it has a substantial recoil, so aim the first few rounds at the ship's hull. Now that the factory had been taken over, efforts to resume production were underway. Although there was still a shortage of ammunition, there was no need to save it deliberately. Okay. I'll blast those bastards to smithereens, Philippa said with an eagerness in her tone. After all, the battle at Gold and Silver Island. That was what made Wu Hang famous on the island, and Philippa had always wanted to try the power of these weapons. She couldn't be content to return without using them even once. Stay safe. Philippa chuckled, alright, anything else? If there's nothing, I'll go command the ships to hurry over. Go ahead, prepare to return home after this, you've been out for a while, Wu Hang said. Philippa readily agreed, okay, I miss you too, I'm heading out now, bye Dad. The communication on the other end cut off, leaving silence. Wu Hang also hung up the microphone on the radio and put away the emerald sand table next to him. He walked to the side, to where another radio was located, and picked up a logbook to glance at it. This was the record of the Shanela radio. The logbook had already received a message. Quite brief. I've docked at the port, don't worry. It seemed the Wood Elf's location was not close, taking so long to arrive. He wasn't sure if they were just unfamiliar with the radio or if they were in a bad mood. In the past, Shanela was very willing to talk to him. Now, after such a long time, just a few words. But he felt more at ease. There were no dangers at Shanela's side, and she had not forgotten him. He put the logbook back and directly walked out the door. He had breakfast with 2 maids. Then, he took a carriage to the central district. The carriage of the island lord's mansion. It was drawn by 2 skeleton horses. The carriage bore the insignia and engravings of Gold and Silver Island and the consortium, giving it a rather grand appearance. The skeleton horses had been left over from the last time the Snake Badge Consortium made a purchase for cavalry and were now used to pull carriages. He had considered getting a few more luxurious carriages as vehicles for the island lord's mansion, but somehow driving them didn't feel as cool as skeleton horses. The carriage clopped its way into the central district. Wu Hang got off the carriage midway to go to the consortium, while Andre Willow continued on to the city hall. Being newly in charge of the entire island, the work at City Hall was hectic. With time, Things should stabilize, and Andre Willow wouldn't be this busy. He entered the consortium hall. The staff and consortium teams greeted him warmly. Wu Heng smiled and responded, then headed straight to the steward's office. He knocked on the door and, after hearing Zai Ligui's voice inside, he stepped right in. Inside the room, Zai Ligui sat behind a desk, while another golden-haired elf girl was seated in the assistant's position. She bore a resemblance to Zai Ligui, although her features looked more mature and lacked the youthful plumpness characteristic of Zai Ligui. Her figure was somewhat exaggerated, incongruous with her appearance. Upon seeing Wu Heng enter, Zai Ligui's expression immediately brightened, and she glanced aside. Coughing lightly, she said, "Wu Heng, you've arrived just in time. Let me introduce you. This is my assistant." Then she said to the assistant, "He is Island Lord Wu Heng. We both served as vice executives and have fought side by side." The short-haired elf smiled, stepped forward 2 paces, and gave a slight bow. "Island Lord Wu Heng, I am the new assistant, Shiali, and I am Zai Ligui's sister. Thank you for taking care of her." "Hello," Wu Heng nodded with a smile. Zai Ligui interjected, "We're at work, let's not talk about this now." The short-haired elf still smiled, "Please have a seat, Island Lord. I've brought some local floral tea from the elf race for you to try." With that, she walked aside and began to prepare the tea. Wu Heng sat down on the side. Zai Ligui looked at him curiously, "Why did you come over today?" Wu Heng said, "Just stopping by to see how things are on the island lately. Everything's fine, the number of merchant fleets on the island is increasing. I think you should consider resuming the expansion work." Zai Ligui thought for a moment and then said directly. More merchant fleets on Gold and Silver Island were a good sign. It also drove the income of the locals and some related taxes. There were still only a few trade caravans that Wu Heng recommended. The majority of the large and small caravans that came to the island to trade still had to pay taxes. But as the population increased, the scale of the current construction seemed a bit crowded. The assistant brought some tea. Wu Heng thanked him, and continued, "I've come this time to discuss this matter. I plan to resume the city expansion and to increase the harbors, separating the association's ships and the merchant ships into different docks." "A good idea," Zai Ligui agreed. Wu Heng looked at her. "So, building a dedicated harbor for the association and the island, it wouldn't be too much to ask the association to contribute some money, would it?" PFFT. The water that Zai Ligui had just sipped sprayed out. In a fluster, she wiped it off, trying to salvage her image, and said annoyed, "You talked to me for so long, just to ask me for money. We build together for everyone's happiness, right? You can write a separate request for the headquarters for a dedicated harbor. I'll directly propose the construction, so that the headquarters allocates the funds. How does that sound?" Wu Heng sipped his tea. Zai Ligui's eyes widened. "You still want money from headquarters? What kind of look is that?" Zai Ligui shook her head, "I won't write it. I am a steward, I don't do these things. It's not like we are cheating money, it's for a real harbor," Wu Heng emphasized. "That's still inappropriate. If this gets out, it would be so embarrassing." Zai Ligui still refused. Wu Heng continued to persuade, "Now that the fleet has increased, the existing harbor is not enough. Separating the fleets is reasonable. How is it embarrassing? You just write one, and we can discuss approval later." Zai Ligui pondered for a moment. She merely said, "I'll consider it and inform you in due time." "There's no harm in trying. If it's not approved, we'll just build it ourselves." Zai Ligui gave him a look but didn't say much more. Wu Heng took another sip of the elf race's flower tea and stood up. "I'll make use of the conference room, we'll talk another time." Zai Ligui nodded. Wu Heng went straight to the association's conference room. In the conference room, after a short wait, the room's door was knocked on again. A staff member came in with a dwarf. The dwarf wore a black suit, his hair somewhat unkempt, and he had on black framed glasses. "Island Master, Mr. Yusef from the City Hall says you called for him," the staff member said. The dwarf bowed. "Yusef, at your service, Island Master. I'm the one who wanted to see him." Wu Heng nodded, then said to the dwarf, "Have a seat." The staff member left. The dwarf sat down on one side of the conference table. Wu Heng got straight to the point. "Was it you who completed the overall design of Gold and Silver Island?" The dwarf, looking somewhat apprehensive, carefully replied, "It was completed by our team. If there's any aspect that the Island Master finds unsuitable, we can make modifications. Designing an entire city cannot be accomplished by a single individual. A team approach is more reasonable." "I'm rather satisfied with your design," Wu Heng stated. The dwarf visibly relaxed, his expression becoming more serious. Wu Heng then said, "I called you here to discuss resuming construction in the expansion area. You'll need to arrange for people to coordinate the work on site. The dwarf realized, there's no problem with that, I can arrange for someone to follow up at any time. Good, when you go back, make the arrangements. Construction will resume tomorrow, and you can send someone over in the morning, Wu Heng instructed sternly. Okay. Wu Heng pulled out a blueprint of Gold and Silver Island and said simultaneously, I also need you to continue monitoring the site. Sir, do you have any specific design requirements? The dwarf inquired. Wu Heng thought for a moment. First, continue the expansion of the commercial district and the residential areas. Second, add a new harbor. Civilian and association exclusive harbors need to be separate. Third, select a location for some functional buildings that require secrecy and easy transportation. The dwarf took notes on the table alongside the conversation. After recording all 3 points, he said, I've got them all down. Once I get back, I'll arrange for the design. Good, once the design is ready, notify Andre Willow. She will inform me, Wu Heng instructed. Understood, sir. Once their conversation concluded, Wu Heng advised the dwarf to expedite the process. The dwarf then stood up, bowed, and left the room directly. Wu Heng also exited the conference room and went to Lighthouse Street to purchase some food supplies. He returned to his residence. He went through the boundary door to the zombie world. In the military factory, Wu Heng emerged from the boundary door and headed downstairs straight away. As soon as he descended, he sensed that the atmosphere was not right. A large assembly of skeletons gathered, and the skeletons on the walls, instead of being at the ready with guns, aimed their weapons outward. A survivor came over quickly. He was one of Chi Hankai's men, who had come over from Dongan village together. Approaching, he lowered his voice and reported, King, the rescue squad has arrived. There are several armored vehicles outside. The rescue squad had come. To investigate the team from yesterday? Yes. Before they died, they must have transmitted a message. The other side is convinced that we are the killers. Wu Heng frowned. Where is Chi Hankai? Sister Chi is negotiating with them in the conference room. Take me there, Wu Heng commanded. King, this way. The man led the way into an office building. As they entered the hallway, they were met by roars. If you don't hand over the people, I'll make you all pay. Don't think that a bunch of skeletons playing with swords and guns can stand against a modern army. Chapter 495, Important Person in the Conference Room. Chi Hankai was seated on one side, flanked by 2 subordinates and 2 skeleton attendants for protection. Across from them sat 3 people. The middle-aged man in a black down jacket, the previously encountered Deputy Commander Liu, and a young man with a straight posture. The middle-aged man in the black down jacket slammed his hand on the table and shouted loudly. Chi Hankai looked at him and said, I've already told you, the craters and explosion traces outside were left by us attacking the factory to fight zombies. Why do you keep saying we killed someone? The middle-aged man still said, before the squad went missing, they sent back a message saying there was a conflict with you. I don't understand what you're saying, it didn't happen here with us, Chi Hankai insisted. Would you dare let us search this place? Sorry, we're not in the habit of letting people randomly search our residence. You. With a creak, the door was pushed open, and Wu Heng walked straight in. Chi Hankai immediately showed delight and made room for him. What's going on? Wu Heng looked at the people opposite and asked directly. Chi Hankai replied, the rescue team reported that someone went missing in our area. Wu Heng sat down in a chair and looked at Deputy Commander Liu, asking, how do you know we were around here? Deputy Commander Liu glanced to one side and explained, we have a squad conducting a mission nearby. Just speaking made his momentum seem a few notches weaker. Conducting what kind of mission? Wu Heng pressed. Terrain reconnaissance and material collection. Wu Heng stared straight at him. Why do you say it's related to us? Another middle-aged man said coldly, before the squad went missing, they sent a message back saying there was a conflict with you. Wu Heng then turned to him, what's your name? Chi. Wu Heng nodded and continued, according to what you're saying, were your people planning to attack us at that time? How could that be? We were attacking the factory, how could we possibly attack you? Wu Heng addressed the middle-aged man surnamed Chi and then turned to Deputy Commander Liu. Deputy Commander Liu, you might have fooled us once. Deputy Commander Liu's eyes narrowed slightly, emphasizing, the people really did go missing. So what? Going out to collect materials, who doesn't face danger? If your people go missing, are you going to come here and cause a fuss every time? Or do you also want to engage in looting other bases for their resources? How could that be? Deputy Commander Liu immediately said. The middle-aged man surnamed Chi, with a gloomy face, said, dare you let us search here? What if you find nothing? If we find nothing, I'll apologize to you. What good is your apology to me? If you find nothing, I want the 4 armored vehicles outside. Let's see if you dare. Wu Heng stared straight at him. Chi Hankai, standing to the side, clenched his hands tightly behind him. The armored vehicles and trucks captured yesterday were parked in the garage. They had serial numbers that could be easily identified. Why should we? The other party immediately said. Wu Heng also looked at him. Yeah, why should we? Humphrey. The middle-aged man scoffed. Our armored vehicles are parked outside, ready to level this place at any time. Wu Heng stared intently at him, then allowed himself a smile. He turned to Qi Hengkai and said, inform Xinfu City to suspend the trade of goods with the provincial area. Slap. Deputy Commander Liu slammed the table and stood up abruptly. He rebuked the man beside him. Qianrong, apologize to Leader Wu. Who gave you the right to speak so aggressively about war, as if you have the words of a bandit on your lips? You. Seeing the other party was truly angry, the man surnamed Qi took a deep breath. Then he said, I'm sorry, Leader Wu. I misspoke in my agitation. Wu Heng waved his hand dismissively. Alright, you all go back for now. If there are any concrete updates later, we can help you look for them, but based on the timing, their disappearance doesn't coincide with the time we took over the factory. Deputy Commander Liu got up and said, then we'll leave for now. As for the trade between the two cities, Leader Wu, please don't issue any orders to suspend it. We're making efforts to gather gold. Yeah, I too hope we can coexist peacefully. Then we won't disturb you any longer, Deputy Commander Liu said before leaving with the other two. They walked out of the factory, boarded the armored vehicles, and gradually moved away. Qi Hansi commented, they brought so many armored vehicles, I thought they were going to fight us to the death. Those three factions control the base, they have to consult each other before doing anything. Wu Heng watched the departing convoy and continued, but we also need to be careful, just in case they really do something. Qi Hansi nodded, then added, by the way, we found the place where the blueprints are stored, but we can't open the security door. Let's go, take me to see it. In the rescue team's vehicle. Qianrong's face displayed some reluctance as he said, going back like this, it's going to be hard to explain to Boss Huang. Deputy Commander Liu glanced at him and said, just tell it like it is, the chances of them being involved are slim. I think it's better to look for clues from another angle. Boss Huang has only one son, he definitely won't let this go. Deputy Commander Liu stared at him coldly, warning, it's best not to provoke them. If it really affects the food exchange, you should know the consequences. Humphrey. Qianrong huffed and stopped talking. Wu Heng and Qi Hansi looked up at the enormous steel door in front of them. The words Archive Storage Room were clearly written on the wall beside it. The door was made of pure metal plates, just like the ones used in bank vaults in movies. There were two types of locks on the door. A password lock and a keyhole. Qi Hansi said, someone suggested blowing up the side wall, but we're afraid of damaging the documents inside. I think we could wait for some tools to be shipped from Xinfu City and try cutting into it, see if we can open it. This kind of door, cutting and drilling, would be difficult to destroy. Indeed, blasting from the side might be the quicker option. Wu Heng looked at the steel door and said to Qi Hansi, go get me a bottle of water. Oh. Qi Hansi turned and walked outside. Wu Heng took out the bronze key and directly opened the steel door. The thickness of the entire steel door was still quite exaggerated, nearly 5 centimeters thick. That could probably withstand a cannonball. Before long, Qi Hansi returned with a bottle of mineral water. Seeing the open door, he paused, surprised. You know the password? Wu Heng shook his head, it's a bit hard to explain, roughly, I used superpowers to open it. Qi Hansi sighed, having superpowers must be great. Wu Heng took the mineral water, took a sip, and put it away. The two entered the room together and started looking around. The room was large, with rows of neat shelving, all full of various drawers. Casually opening one, it contained a staggering number of blueprints. The blueprints were indeed all here. There are electronic versions over here, Qi Hansi called from not too far away. Wu Heng walked over and saw a row of external hard drives in a separate area, labeled with different types of data. Looking at them, they seemed clearer than the blueprints. Wu Heng collected all the items, along with the shelving units. It was quite a haul. Exiting the room, Wu Heng continued, find a warehouse, I've brought some food over, so everyone can have enough to eat. Great. Qi Hansi smiled and led him to a warehouse on one side. All the food was moved into the warehouse. Wu Heng gave Qi Hansi a few more instructions before returning to his own room. Inside the dormitory room, Wu Heng sat waiting for a while, and Zhao flew back from outside. She said, Uncle, Deputy Commander Liu warned that guy not to mess with you, to look for clues in other directions. That bad old man said he's not going to let you off. Chapter 496, Go, stab him twice you won't let me go? That's the exact phrase, isn't it? It sounds like something out of a cartoon. Zhao circled around the top of my head. That's what it means. Wu Heng said, come on, let me have a look. Zhao nodded and directly dove into my body. And the scene from just now was shared from my mind. Deputy Commander Liu obviously didn't want to affect the relationship with us over this matter, while the middle-aged man named Qianrong was representing Boss Huang. He mentioned that Boss Huang has only this one son and wouldn't let it go. It must be Zhao parroting the words that he wouldn't let me go. This father and son surnamed Huang seemed to be quite lucky, at least they both survived when the end of the world broke out. Many survivors' family members died in the early stages of the outbreak. I quickly analyzed the situation in my mind. The rescue team clearly didn't want to clash with us since we hold the upper hand in trading for food supplies. Boss Huang could at most use his personal power to trouble me. As long as they don't destroy the factory, there shouldn't be much of a problem. With the means I have now, even hiding in an armored vehicle, wanting to kill me wouldn't be hard. Once I was certain they had truly left and posed no threat, I stood up, opened the boundary door, and stepped right through. Emerald Sea. The vessel flying the flag of the Mad Lion pirate group was desperately fleeing into the distance. Boom. 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 A nearby ship exploded violently. Shards sprayed into the sky and clattered into the sea. The ship began to silently sink beneath the surface. Pirates falling into the water shouted loudly for help. Behind them, a ship bearing the flags of Gold and Silver Island and the Association followed closely. Weapons on board were spitting out trails of flames. Amidst the dense barrage, you could faintly hear shouts like "Die for me, bastards," and "Shoot those sons of bitches," along with medic laughter. It was like a frenzied mania. Soon, the Mad Lion pirate group was left with just one ship escaping at the forefront. The captain with the golden explosive hair, Joe Kim, stood on the deck with bulging veins on his forehead, urging over and over, "Hurry, speed up, evade those weapons." As he spoke, a dagger sliced his finger. He smeared the blood on the mermaid carving on the prow, and in an instant, the speed of the ship increased again. They gradually widened the distance. At that moment, a green parrot flew over first, landing on the side of the ship. Looking at Joe Kim, it spoke human words, "Joe Kim, silly bird." Joe Kim's face turned grim. During the last battle at Gold and Silver Island, he managed to save his own life by commanding the rear of the fleet. In recent times, he had finally put together a fleet, only to be found by this lunatic again. Joe Kim glanced back. The noisy discharges from the machinery behind stopped, and the distance between the two ships grew. It seemed unlikely they would catch up to him. He breathed a sigh of relief and looked back at the parrot. Philippa was definitely using her tamed beast to keep an eye on him. Clenching his teeth, he said, "I'll come for you one day, and when I do, I'll break every joint in your body and hang you from the mast to dry into jerky. Even if I can't find you, I'll go after everyone close to you, and have them die because of you." The parrot glared with big eyes and screeched, "Stupid bird." After saying that, it flapped its wings and flew back into the sky, leaving the ship behind. At the same time, from the crow's nest, a lookout called out, "Captain, there's something strange on the right side of the ship." Joe Kim narrowed his eyes and quickly moved to the right to check. Below the sea's surface, a giant shark seemingly formed by the water itself was moving alongside the ship. Then, with a flick of its tail, the giant shark rammed into the side of the ship. Bang! A violent collision sounded, rocking the ship, and the pirates were sent sprawling. "Attack it, quick!" The pirates began attacking toward the sea. Arrows and crossbow bolts pierced its body but caused no harm. The shark suddenly leaped over the ship, sweeping up a large number of pirates and dropping them into the sea on the other side. After that, it was an endless series of impacts, making it impossible for the ship to maintain its forward speed. Meanwhile, Philippa stood at the prow, before a machine cannon of immense power, closing in fast. The parrot flew from her shoulder. Philippa turned to the machine cannon, aiming it forward. "Go to hell." Bang! 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 A fusillade of explosions sounded, and the Mad Lion pirate ship quickly shattered, collapsing into pieces in the blink of an eye. Wooden debris floated on the water and the half-sunk wreckage emitted black smoke. The battle was over. Philippa ordered the salvage of spoils of war, and commanded to fish out both the dead and surviving pirates from the water. The bodies had to be transferred to Wu Heng for transformation. These pirates all had decent levels and exhibited notable aquatic traits. Apart from the bodies, on the other side were a few injured pirates who were fortunate enough to survive. Philippa scanned over them and approached Joe Kim, giving his face a hard smack. "Big boss Joe Kim, you sure have 9 lives, huh? You're still not dead yet." She remembered the time she had been tricked and brought to Pirate Island, forced to kneel on the ground and almost executed then and there. But now, the roles were reversed, and it was the level 15 captain of a large pirate group, Joe Kim, kneeling before her. "Philippa, you're a pirate's daughter. Do you really think the association will accept you? You will never escape this status, and you'll be discarded sooner or later, Jo Kim sneered, flicking the hair covering his eyes away and speaking coldly. Bullshit. I've been a secret speaker for the association from the start. Your whole family are the pirates, not me. Forget it, someone like you probably wouldn't know a secret speaker if they bit you, Philippa said disdainfully. As for his claim about the association discarding her, Philippa wasn't the least bit afraid. My relationship with Wu Heng is quite good. Humphrey. Jo Kim sneered, his face showing no fear. If you dare, don't kill me and see who will be the one who ends up afraid. Now that you mention it, I'm actually not so sure, Philippa said. Jo Kim's eyes narrowed, his expression growing uglier. Philippa ordered 2 level 15 skeletons to keep a close watch on him and continued to check the other captives. When she reached the 5th one, she paused her steps and frowned at the captive. Lift your head. The kneeling pirate carefully raised his head, eyes darting around. Philippa frowned. Babuzzy, you're alive too? No, what I mean is how did you end up mixing with them? The Flying Fish Pirate Group's captain, Babuzzy. Babuzzy awkwardly raised his head and said, Jo Kim claimed I was your accomplice and had me captured. I've been locked in the cabin for days. Philippa looked to the side, at the recovery team members of the association, and nodded slightly. Damn that dog. Philippa stepped forward, untying Babuzzy and pulling him to his feet. I only have you as a friend. Come on, I'll help you get even. Babuzzy stood up, his arms propped and a look of bewilderment in his eyes. Then, he followed her to where the Mad Lion Jo Kim was. Philippa pulled out a curved knife from the waist of a nearby skeleton and handed it to him. Here, give him a couple of stabs. It's no problem even if you kill him. Babuzzy's gaze hardened as he looked at the glowering eyes of the Mad Lion Jo Kim, hesitating. This. Philippa pushed the knife into his hand, and Babuzzy hesitated for a long time. Still, he took the knife and approached the other side. Babuzzy, she is with the association. If you dare to kill me, you will also suffer the punishment of the sea, Jo Kim roared ferociously. Babuzzy's eyes grew more resolute, and he said coldly, the era ruled by the large pirate groups is over, you can't scare me. With that, the knife in his hand stabbed directly into the other's body. Followed by a second and a third stab. Blood flowed freely. Philippa nodded and waved her hand. The skeleton slashed the throats of all the surviving pirates. They lay twitching on the deck. After all the pirates were dead, Philippa continued, roll up all the bodies in straw mats, and after we've salvaged the spoils, we'll set sail back. Everyone sprang into action. Philippa then said to Babuzzy, sorry for the inconvenience. Once we're back on the island, I'll speak on your behalf. Babuzzy handed back the knife and was led away by the skeletons to be detained in the cabin. Island Master's Manor. Wu Heng stepped out of the study and headed towards the mechanist's room. The skeletons were very efficient in their work. Unlike living creatures, they did not need to rest, and they didn't require light at night, being able to arrange blueprints in the dark. Wu Heng went over to take a look. The blueprints for bullets and hand grenades had been reorganized and marked. Now they were working on organizing the compound bow. Wu Heng called 2 level 15 skeletons aside and said, after you arrange the blueprints you're holding, reorganize these shell blueprints, and the rest are in the next room for you to check. Be careful with fire prevention. The skeleton mechanists picked up the blueprints to glance at them. Then set them aside and continued working on the compound bow. Wu Heng looked on for a bit and then left the room. He went downstairs and chatted with Minnie for a while. Waited for Andre Willow to return and had dinner together. Then went back to his room to rest. The next day, in the morning, Wu Heng sent all the collected engineering vehicles to the construction site. The expansion of the peripheral areas of the small island began. When the dwarf engineer and several other living creature engineers saw engines roaring, easily moving boulders, and leveling paths, their eyes widened in amazement. Sir, if these machines can keep working like this, I guarantee we can finish the project in half the time. In no more than 3 days, we can start building drainage, as well as houses and shops, the dwarf said. That's fine. I will also arrange for skeletons to help with the transport to speed up the project. Prioritize the construction of the second port, Wu Heng said, relieved to see the vehicles operating normally. The progress of the construction will be even faster than the dwarf had mentioned. After all, skeletons can also work at night, and since this area is a bit distant from the residential quarter, there's no worry about disturbing the peace, allowing for work to be done freely. Understood, sir. Wu Heng patted his shoulder, do well, and if it turns out well, I'll set up a separate research department for you. From then on, you'll be in charge of all the design work on the island. The dwarf's expression unified, and he immediately expressed his thanks excitedly. Thank you, sir. I will definitely work with all my might to not let you down. Wu Heng nodded, leaving the dwarf in charge there, and returned to the manor. He greeted Minnie as he passed by the study on his way to the zombie world. Stepping out of the boundary door, a coolness enveloped his whole body. It was blazing hot on Gold and Silver Island, yet here it was winter. If it weren't for the increasing constitution, the back and forth between the two places could have caused a cold. He walked out of the room. Chi Hankai followed and said directly, "The rest of the people and some solar panel equipment are on the way and should arrive tomorrow. First let's see if the number of solar panels can support 1 or 2 production lines to resume production," Wu Hang said. "Understood." Chi Hankai nodded. Wu Hang continued, "Has the rescue team said anything?" "Not yet, they are probably admitting defeat. Our combat was swift, and they couldn't find any substantial evidence. Mere suspicion won't do them any good." Chi Hankai now appeared comparatively calm. From the conversation the two had yesterday, it seemed the rescue team was not planning to pursue further, all depending on the person known as Boss Huang. "We still can't trust them too much. Be cautious." "Okay." Wu Hang then said, "Have the surroundings been fully scouted?" Chi Hankai took out a map. "There are a few more factories in this direction. Arrange for the convoy. Let's clear the way as we go." Chapter 497, Weapons aren't meant to collect dust on the road. Large swaths of zombies began to converge. They snarled viciously, charging forward with bared teeth and flailing claws. The skeleton flying dragon swept overhead, and solid iron bullets rained down like a deluge into the horde. The zombies along the road were torn apart in the bombardment. Immediately after, a floating longsword began to fly forward. Streaks of sword light flashed by. The remaining zombies' heads fell off, and their bodies slumped down lifelessly. The battle was over. The skeletons cleaned up the battlefield, while Wu Hang checked his experience points. Level 17, 47,582 265,000. That afternoon, they cleared roughly 3 factories along the road. His experience points had reached 47,000. There was still some way to go to reach level 18. "It seems that experience points accumulate faster in the city," Wu Hang muttered. Killing zombies had actually become not much of a challenge. It was just a matter of efficiency. Chi Hankai came over from behind, "The auto parts factory, the rubber parts factory, the heavy components factory." "Right, bring some people to check it out later, see if there's anything we can use." "Okay." After cleaning up, Wu Hang completed the skeleton transformation. Then they returned to the military factory together. Provincial Rescue Team, the refugee base. In a slightly dim room. The door was pushed open, and a figure strode in. Looking ahead, he said, "Deputy Commander Huang, we brought back a few people from the Pingxiang shelter, and after questioning them, it's confirmed that Captain Huang really did go to the Pingxiang shelter and indeed inquired about the military factory and the Zenfu City base's people." Behind the desk, a lean middle-aged man took a drag of his cigarette and said, "So you mean, my son's disappearance is related to those people?" "There's no substantial evidence yet, but considering the activities on that day, he really did go to the area of the military factory," the subordinate said. Boss Huang's voice was tinged with anger. "What do you need substantial evidence for? Are you waiting for my son to come to you in a dream?" The subordinate did not respond. Boss Huang continued, "How many people did you question?" 3. "Only 3 people from a shelter?" "The lookouts noticed that a convoy from Zenfu City also came by, so we selected the 3 who knew the most and came back. They were questioned on the road." Boss Huang took one drag after another on his cigarette. After pondering a moment, he said, "Arrange for someone to thoroughly investigate the defense around a military factory. Someone has to pay for my son's funeral." "Yes," the subordinate responded, about to leave. "Wait." The subordinate stopped in his tracks and looked back. Boss Huang said, "Be discreet about it, don't let the others in the base find out." "Understood. Go, I'll allocate more supplies to you." "Thank you, boss." The subordinate expressed his gratitude and left the room. Boss Huang, leaning on his chair and smoking, muttered to himself, "I didn't acquire so many weapons just for them to gather dust. My son, oh my son." The next day, after breakfast, Wu Hang went straight to Zombie World. The support team from Zenfu City had already arrived. Load after load of supplies was unloaded into the warehouse, and numerous technicians came along with them. Chi Hankai followed him over. Her expression was serious. When the convoy passed the Pingxiang service station, they mentioned that the provincial rescue team was investigating our people. "Did the service station staff spill anything about us?" Chi Hankai said, "They did, and they even took away a few people. I suspect they might need them as witnesses, to testify against us. It's the end of the world. After they testify, if we deny it, what can they possibly do?" Actually, Wu Hang wasn't surprised at all that the investigation was routed through the Pingxiang service station. After all, the initial news had spread from there. It was quite normal for the other party to conduct their investigation that way. Chi Hankai's eyes narrowed slightly, Do you mean that they might directly force the issue? That possibility is not big, but we still need to be cautious, Wu Heng instructed. Qi Hengkai sighed slightly and could only nod in agreement. To speak of it, their side was indeed unlucky. If Liu Chang hadn't gone to notify the provincial rescue team, and they had come here to take over the factory directly, the matter would have been over. Even if the rescue team found out later, they would have had no grounds to say much. Now, however, the situation has become so complicated. The other side had lost lives, and they were relentlessly pursuing the matter. It's hard to say whether a real conflict will break out later on. Even though they were confident in their side, modern weapons were still extremely lethal. If those weapons affected them, it would be equally dangerous. Seeing her troubled expression, Wu Heng offered comfort. Don't worry, if they truly cause us trouble, I will protect you all. Qi Hengkai suppressed her unease and managed a smile. No, I'm not scared as long as you're here. Then, she continued, we can start installing the solar panels. The electricians suggest we try one production line first to see if it can handle it. Let's try the production line for the machine guns, he said. All right. Qi Hengkai immediately went down to direct the others to start installing solar panels on the rooftop and to modify the wiring. Meanwhile, Wu Heng was on the side, commanding the skeletons to clear the areas that had been scorched by big fires. Various debris, collapsed walls. They were moved outside. As the day gradually passed, the sky also began to darken. Wu Heng and a few others stood in front of the factory, silently waiting. After someone made some adjustments to the CNC, computer numerically controlled, mainframe. Hum. The hum of machinery filled the air. The entire production line gradually came to life. The bullets, which had been stationary on the line, were transported to the next phase and ultimately fell into the plastic frame at the end. Seeing the production line actually moving, Wu Heng was pleased, and the others also showed their happiness. This is great. Qi Hengkai grabbed his arm, jumping excitedly. After noticing the glances from the others, she quickly let go, yet her face remained unable to hide her joy. Having the ability to produce bullets was of significant importance to the base. Even though firearms had not been distributed to the survivors, having an ample supply of bullets meant increased safety for the base. At the very least, they wouldn't need to trade food with the province for bullets anymore. Alright, let's stop for now. We'll resume production when we have more materials. Everyone, go and rest. Wu Heng suggested. The crowd switched off the machines. Wu Heng arranged for a large number of skeletons to stand guard. Then they all left the factory. They returned to the dormitory building together. The fact that we can produce bullets must be kept secret. We have no shortage of enemies, Wu Heng commented as they walked. Understood, the people who came are veterans, they know the rules well. Alright, everyone get some rest, he said. The crowd dispersed, each returning to their own rooms. The next day, in the association's meeting room, Wu Heng looked around at all the representatives from the island's trade-in groups gathered around the conference table and directly said, everyone here represents the commercial factions of the island. Gold and Silver Island needs a batch of supplies, and we plan to select a few trustworthy and efficient trading parties for cooperation. Upon hearing this, everyone present immediately showed interest. Island Master, may I inquire about the kind of goods you require? This way we can help you analyze it, they said. Chapter 498, Crisis in London City, one update today. For businesses looking to engage in trade on the island or facilitate cargo transit, maintaining close cooperation with the island lord's mansion presented an excellent opportunity to foster relationships, especially for those trading companies that hadn't previously written letters of recommendation to help Wu Heng become the island master. They were even more eager to seize this chance for collaboration. Each one appeared quite enthusiastic. On Wu Heng's part, for the procurement of the trading companies, he actually preferred to have Shainila assist him. However, Shainila had just returned to the Wood Elves and would need some time to come back. The representative of the Starflower Trading Company was also present, holding the same status as the other representatives. These are the items I need to procure, take a look at them first, Wu Heng said, taking out several neatly arranged material lists and handing them to the representatives of the trading companies present. The material lists were reorganized by the mechanist. They included several materials like 3mm copper coins, white gunpowder, and lead. White gunpowder was similar to the modern world smokeless powder, with the difference being in the ingredients. The gunpowder in this world was mixed with the scale powder of fire magical beasts. The mechanist adjusted the materials while organizing them. The representatives from the various trading companies looked over the materials list, some with delight, others helplessly shaking their heads. One person stood up and said, Island Master, our company won the auction for the mining rights to the eastern copper mines of Rocheville at the Snake Badge Consortium auction. We can supply the copper ore you need. Another promptly stood up as well, Sir, we also export a large amount of copper ore, and we can meet the specifications you need and deliver them to you. We can supply the white gunpowder. Several people stood up in succession, stating the materials they could provide for collaboration. Wu Heng sat to the side and listened. He felt a sigh of relief at the prospect of successful procurement. He gestured with his hand for everyone to sit down. Go back, compile a list of the types of materials and prices you can offer. Once you're ready, deliver them directly to the city hall. We will choose a few companies based on price and transportation conditions to sign an agreement and make the procurement. Don't worry about the payment, it will all be settled normally, he said. Yes, yes. The crowd nodded flatteringly. Then let's leave it at that. Please submit your offers as soon as possible so we can make our selection, Wu Heng said. Everyone stood up, bowed, and walked out together. After everyone had left, Wu Heng also left the association directly. Taking a carriage back to the island master's manor, he put on the train captain's hat, and the phantom train appeared. He traveled straight to Netali City in the Hueco Kingdom. The train stopped in a deserted area, and Wu Heng, wearing a cloak and a veil, entered the city directly. Unlike before, this time, there were fewer people on the streets of Netali City than on the previous visit a few days ago, each hurriedly on their way, and many shops had already closed. He made quick purchases of some materials in an alchemy store and a mining goods shop before heading to the semi-underground Snake Badge Consortium at the Mermaid Tavern. Inside the Snake Badge Consortium, it was not as bustling as before. A scattered pair of individuals stood in front of a bulletin board, conversing in low tones. Wu Heng walked straight into a prearranged room. Soon after, an unfamiliar young woman cautiously entered. She glanced at Wu Heng and respectfully asked, "Sir, are you here to trade elixirs?" Wu Heng assessed the woman and nodded. "You weren't the one I dealt with before, were you?" "My mistress had some matters to attend to, so she arranged for me to conduct the trade with you here." "Rest assured, mistress has educated me on the process," the woman said, leaning forward slightly, half bowing as she spoke. Wu Heng continued inspecting her. The young woman spoke again. Mistress also said, "If you would like to assist her in concocting elixirs, the original offer is still valid, and she is prepared to provide even more generous terms." The mention was also meant to prove her identity. After all, the conditions between the two were not public knowledge, unless the blonde woman herself disclosed them. Wu Heng nodded and immediately took out 2 elixir bottles, placing them on the table. The woman in front of him also pulled a brocade box out of a space ring. She carefully opened it and slid it across the table. Inside was a vibrantly blooming floral crown. Fairy flower crown. Description: a floral crown crafted by reclusive fairies, possessing self-healing, body nourishing, and beast communication abilities. This time it wasn't a special item, but a magical prop. But its effects were still quite exceptional. Some magical props, in terms of effects, were no less impressive than special items, and they came without side effects. This fairy flower crown was also rather decent, and though not a battle gear, the self-healing effect wouldn't allow one to fight wearing a floral crown. It was more for post-battle use or daily wear, nourishing the body. The woman softly explained, "The floral crown of the fairy race, its self-healing effect is comparable to a mid-tier healing potion. Wearing it daily can greatly nourish your body and provide the ability to communicate with animals and wild beasts." So, the beast communication truly was literal, conversing with wild beasts. After the introduction, the woman carefully inquired, "Sir, are you satisfied with the item?" "Yes, it's quite satisfactory," Wu Heng responded, taking the item. Upon hearing his satisfaction, the woman also smiled and tucked away the elixirs. With that, the trade concluded. Wu Heng asked, "Why are there so few people on the streets?" The woman gently shook her head. "I'm sorry, I can't speak carelessly, nor do I wish to be dismissive." Wu Heng raised his eyebrows, surprised at the response. He stood up and said, "No problem, I will take my leave then." The woman once again showed her respect with a bow. Wu Heng walked out directly. Not lingering outside, he boarded the phantom train at a secluded spot and returned to Gold and Silver Island. Chapter 498, Crisis in London City. Returned to his residence. Wu Heng sat in the living room and chatted with Minnie for a while, and when he felt rested enough, he went upstairs. He opened the boundary door and headed to Zombie World. He added the small amount of materials he had purchased to the production chain machines. Several people stood by silently waiting. Soon, the machines began to operate, starting up the entire process. Copper coins were cut into coin-sized discs, which were then pressed by the machine into hollow casings. Next came fixing the base, filling with gunpowder, and securing the bullet head. Wu Heng, having seen the blueprints, understood the general workflow. Chi Hengkai and the others were seeing the production of bullets for the first time and were full of curiosity. But once the entire process was completed and the whole bullets were made, It seemed that they weren't that difficult to manufacture after all. These materials might not last us very long, Chi said. I'll figure something out when the time comes, no need to worry, Wu Hang replied. Chi thought for a moment. I can arrange for some copper items to be collected from various places, but gunpowder will be difficult to gather. Well, then start collecting some copper items. I'll figure out the gunpowder and lead, Wu Hang suggested. Okay. After producing some bullets, Wu Hang had the machines halt production. He gathered the newly made bullets. Together, they walked out of the factory to the outside. He handed the bullets to a skeleton wielding a machine gun, switched to these bullets. The skeleton opened the magazine and loaded the new bullets. Fired at a target in the distance. Bang. 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 A burst of gunfire resonated, and the bullets hit a wooden target far away. The trajectory and range were all good. This also proved that not only was replacing the white gunpowder not an issue, but the bullets produced by the entire production chain were up to standard. Looks like the effects are quite good, Chi said, looking at the wooden target. Yes, indeed not bad, Wu Hang agreed. He had the skeleton return to its post. Wu Hang and Chi walked back together. They went straight back to their respective residences. The next day, at the Island Master's Manor, Wu Hang was sunbathing on a recliner, while Minnie was tending to the flowers and plants in a flower bed nearby. Thump. 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 The manor's gate was knocked on. Minnie wiped her hands on her apron and hurriedly ran to open the door. She chatted with the person outside for a moment. Carrying a letter, she walked back. Master, there's a letter for you from the association. It was delivered straight here, she announced. A letter, huh? Wu Hang sat up and took a look at it. He tore open the envelope and poured out the letter. Lines of handwriting appeared. It was a letter from Wen Mancha. Master, I have received the letter you sent, and I was very happy, but appearing suddenly by my bed still gave me quite a scare. I can't be startled like that now. You said you would came to see me, but several days have passed without any news, and I can't wait any longer, so I'm writing you this letter. I only hope I won't miss you, and that you will be there when I come. London City has been somewhat unstable lately. 2 days ago, an assassination took place in the outer city area, and several officials from the city hall were assassinated with signs of interrogation. Through investigation and arrest of several gang members, some information was obtained about high-level professionals who had entered the city and were plotting something. I have already arranged for more patrols and guards around the city, but the pressure has still led some officials to choose to leave. Steward Slither has also visited a few times, but he can't stay in the city for long, and doesn't have any particularly good solutions. If you were here, Master, such things definitely wouldn't happen. I just hope I won't do too poorly and let down your expectations. Waiting for your return, Wen Mancha reading the content of the letter, Wu Hang's brows furrowed slightly. Previous letters had all described London City as prospering, with the city's rapid development and taxes continuously rising. Moreover, with Money Cat's successful management, it had become the entertainment center of the surrounding cities. The true city that never sleeps. But today's letter carried a sense of concern. High-level professionals were assassinating officials and interfering with the development of London City. For a place like London City without the support of any nation or power, it indeed was the kind of location most susceptible to an overthrow of authority. It seemed he really had to make a return trip. Is it a letter from Sister Wen Mancha? Asked Minnie from the side. So smart. I knew it was her, she must be going crazy thinking about you, Minnie said on the side. Andre Willow had said the same thing. Among the 3 maidservants in London City, Wen Mancha was the clingiest. It seemed Minnie thought so too. Wu Hang put away the letter and said, there are high-level professionals causing trouble over in London City, something Wen Mancha mentioned. Didn't you leave a high-level skeleton there? Is it even higher than that one? London City wasn't very much noticed before. Based on the feeling of playing games in the past, it looked more like a city around a beginner's village. It's a bit above Blackstone Town but falls far short of Gold and Silver Island. A level 15 over there was a top-notch professional. At that time, a level 15 Skull Crusher, a bandit leader from the Hammer Party, almost took over the entire city. But now the taxes in the city have skyrocketed. It has attracted the attention of high-level professionals. Maybe they want to take over. Wu Hang said. Minnie looked over and asked, are you going back? Yeah, I'll go back and take a look. At the very least, I should install the radio for her, so she doesn't always have to write letters. That's true, and you can keep Wen Mancha's sister company when you're there. She's quite pitiable, being left all alone, Minnie said. Wu Hang nodded, planning in his mind when to leave. Gold and Silver Island had already stabilized and didn't need much attention at the moment. The main thing is to watch what's happening in Zombie World. There's still no result with the provincial rescue team. The issues need to be resolved quickly, and then move on to London City. Afternoon. He went straight to Zombie World. More people had been summoned here, and the factory became bustling. Wu Heng came down from upstairs. Chi Hengkai also hurried over from outside with a serious expression. Could you come over for a moment? Seeing her look, he followed her to a spot behind the building. In the middle of an open space, there lay a corpse. Wu Heng raised an eyebrow. A dead body? Chi Hengkai shook her head. Not one of ours. It was discovered climbing the wall last night and killed by a skeleton. Not their own people. And trying to climb over the wall to get in? Wu Heng speculated. The provincial rescue team's people? After all, their own people were here, and only the rescue team knew about it. It's possible. He wasn't wearing the rescue team's uniform, but he was carrying a pistol, so it should be similar, she said. Wu Heng nodded and cast communicate with the dead directly at the corpse. The corpse sat up from the ground, its murky eyes looking their way. Wu Heng asked straight away, which base are you from? The corpse answered, Danying Street, Little Rock City base. Little Rock City was where the rescue team's base was built. Some say rescue team base, others say Little Rock City base, just different names for the same place. But it also confirmed their guess, it was indeed someone from the provincial rescue team. Wu Heng continued, what were you doing here? The corpse replied, Boss Huang gave us the task of gathering information about this place in exchange for food. Boss Huang. Still not giving up, eh? Wu Heng further asked, what kind of information are you collecting? The missing squad, the defense plans of the factory area, and what's happening inside. The two exchanged looks. Chi Hengkai didn't speak, but her face grew more solemn. Gathering information on their defense plans made the intention quite clear. Even if not planning to attack, they were preparing for the possibility. Wu Heng gestured to Chi Hengkai not to worry. He continued to look at the corpse. Is it just Boss Huang saying this, or has the entire rescue team agreed to investigate this place? Only Boss Huang alone, doing it behind the backs of the other two powers of the rescue team. One last question. How many weapons and pieces of equipment does Boss Huang have? 4 armored vehicles, and a good amount of firearms. I'm not clear on the exact number, the corpse replied. 5 questions answered. The corpse lay back down on the ground. It seemed that Boss Huang had already pinned this matter on his own head. Whether they were truly missing, or died somewhere else. None of that mattered anymore. He had set his sights on this place. Chapter 499, He will not die no matter who else does. Chi Hengkai's brow was tightly furrowed, and his complexion was somewhat unpleasant. The base had been developing well, establishing outposts smoothly on several occasions. But he hadn't anticipated that it would lead to such an issue. No wonder the squad leader spoke so brazenly back then, he actually had powerful backing. Even in the end of the world, it's still all about who your father is. Should we inform the rescue team? The military definitely won't let this Huang get away with creating chaos, Chi Hengkai said straightforwardly. The rescue team wanted to continue exchanging food. They wouldn't watch Boss Huang sabotage the relationship between the two sides. Wu Heng, standing to one side, pondered for a moment before saying, no need. I'll handle this. Act as if it never happened and don't mention it to anyone. Chi Hengkai's eyes moved quickly, and then he said, all right. Wu Heng instructed Skeleton to take the corpse outside and bury it. Once the body was taken away, the two of them stopped discussing the matter. They walked together toward the workshop's room. Chi Hengkai continued, our photovoltaic panels are only enough to maintain this one production chain. If we collected all the photovoltaic panels from several bases, we might be able to add another. Cutting the power to the base wasn't a good choice in this season. Moreover, the supply of white gunpowder and various materials was not perfect, so there was no rush to increase the production chains. As they walked, Wu Heng thought for a moment and said, let's just maintain this one for now. In the coming time, we'll use the radio to contact the outside and recruit personnel for power plant construction. Okay, Chi Hengkai nodded. The two men made a round of the entire base. When returning, Wu Heng said, prepare a car, I need to go out. I'll take you there, Chi Hengkai said as he arranged for the vehicle, turning to speak. No need. Arrange for a skeleton that can drive, you stay here, Wu Heng replied. Chi Hengkai looked at him and nodded in agreement. Rescue team shelter. In a well-decorated room. Behind Huang Wengbing's desk, there were bottles of red wine and a wine glass half filled with red wine. He looked up at the figure standing in front of him and asked, what have you gathered? A subordinate spoke softly, no news from Captain Huang. The military factory has seen continuous vehicle activity for the past 2 days and we've observed some supplies and support personnel. Huang Wengbing took a sip of wine and continued, what about the military strength and the number of armored vehicles? That, hesitating, the subordinate said, we can't confirm the number of personnel raised, The skeleton count is feared to be over 1,000, with 2 armored vehicles and several self-modified ones. I need detailed information. Also, have the brothers check on the ammunition stockpile, Huang Guangping said as he took out a pack of cigarettes from the drawer and tossed it to the subordinate. All right. The subordinate caught the cigarettes and nodded before leaving. Only Huang Guangping remained in the study. He took a drag of his cigarette and sipped from his glass now and then. As he breathed in the smoke deeply and exhaled into the halfway space, his pupils suddenly shrank. In front of him, the apparition of a lady dressed in an old-fashioned western gown and wearing a bonnet floated half-translucently in midair. Huang Guangping's face changed dramatically. The sudden shock made him clutch his heart. At the same time, his gaze swept towards the handgun on the nearby cabinet. Are you Huang Guangping? The figure in midair asked slowly. The way she spoke was peculiar, like a foreigner who had just learned Chinese. Huang Guangping took 2 deep breaths, slowly removed his hand from his chest, and asked cautiously, You're a ghost that can speak? Your manner of address is very impolite. Life is just a form that can survive in many ways, she said. Huang Guangping didn't want to hear her beating around the bush but asked seriously, What are you doing here? I don't seem to have provoked someone like you. A friend, right? Ghost incidents had been mentioned at the headquarters. The local rescue team had even held meetings about it. According to some intelligence they gathered, ghosts were very hard to kill, and getting entangled with one could be troublesome. Clearly, he was now entangled with one. Huang Guangping was certain he had never seen this ghost, it had been so long since he had ventured out of the base. He considered himself a behind-the-scenes commander. The ghost still looked at her, began speaking softly, Wu Hang sent me. You should know him. No, you all call him King Yama. Huang Guangping's eyes narrowed sharply. The leader of the Zinfu City base could actually command ghosts. How was that possible? Shock filled his heart, but he forced himself to remain calm on the surface, saying, My cooperation with Zinfu City has been quite good, is there something you're here for? With a laugh, the ghost twirled in midair and charged directly toward Huang Guangping. Fuck. Huang Guangping instantly stood up, reaching for the handgun nearby. But the ghost was faster, and the moment he touched it, she had already entered his body, forcing him back into his seat. Huang Guangping's movements became stiff, his eyes filled with terror. Now he understood how ghosts kill. It was just like in the ghost stories, they could possess a body. The ghost controlling his body sat him down, took a sip of the wine, and opened a few drawers to look inside. Then she took out a dining knife and slowly slit her own throat. Blood flowed down the front of his clothes, and Huang Guangping's eyes went from fear to a dull, cloudy look. Finally, he slumped lifelessly in his chair. In the wilderness, on a deserted and uninhabited piece of land beside the road, Wu Hang sat in the passenger seat, waiting silently. Soon, Glenda appeared from one side and said softly, He's dead, looked like suicide. You've worked hard, Wu Hang said. Glenda chuckled, It's nothing tough. The people in your world are all ordinary, not even equivalent to a first-year professional. The main development here has been in technology. One can tell. If it weren't for the virus outbreak you mentioned, the lives of ordinary people here wouldn't be too bad either, Glenda agreed. Wu Hang nodded and said to someone beside him, Let's go, let's head back. The skeleton responsible for driving turned the vehicle around, back onto the road to return. Dawn. The rescue team base was in slight chaos. A large number of personnel were being mobilized. They began investigating the cause of death and capturing the murderer. In the conference room, the military and Tancheng group sat together, discussing the matter. Given Huang Guangping's character, it's impossible he would have committed suicide, said a middle-aged man in a suit from Tancheng group directly. On the other side, the rescue team's commander furrowed his brow. An investigation has been done, and there's no sign of someone else committing the murder and then staging it. That's why this matter is serious, the middle-aged man in the suit. Anyone might commit suicide in the end of the world, but not Huang Guangping. Even if he lost his son, at most he would find a woman and have another child, he wouldn't die in this way. Such a person is selfish, but once they gain power, they can also do very well for themselves. In the current situation, Huang Guangping's status is even more influential than in peacetime. How could he possibly choose to commit suicide now? There's no way to explain it. A person capable of killing him, in the base, it's either you or me, said the commander, looking up at the other man. The man in the suit sneered coldly, I would not do such a thing. Then it must have been suicide. Knock. 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 The door was knocked, and several figures entered the room. One of them glanced at the two groups and spoke softly, Commander, we have some clues. Out with it. The last person to see Deputy Commander Huang was one of his confidants, who was given a mission by him at that time. The speaker suddenly paused mid-sentence. Several people from afar looked over. The commander asked, "What mission?" "To tally the military strength and ammunitions, and also to investigate the defenses and personnel of Zinfu City Military Factory," the person replied. The room instantly went quiet. Everyone was a bit shocked and found it hard to believe. Huang Guangping had actually been going behind their backs, still causing trouble for Zinfu City base. And, having just assigned the mission, he committed suicide, raising suspicions about whether it had anything to do with the mission. "Is there anything else?" "That's all. You may go." Announced that Huang Guangping committed suicide due to the grief of losing his son, and all of his weapons and military forces are to be reclaimed, the commander ordered. "Yes." Several personnel responded and immediately exited the room. Inside the conference room, silence lingered for 5 or 6 seconds. It was then the man in the suit spoke up. "Could this have something to do with Zinfu City? If it's true, then their means are too formidable. Being able to silently kill Huang Guangping means they can kill any of us here. And yet, do so without leaving any trace." This worried every high-ranking official present. Those in power are not afraid of war, but they will not take to the battlefield themselves. If they can be directly threatened, they will have to be even more cautious when acting. "I think we can explain things to the other side," the man in the suit said. The commander considered for a moment and shook his head. "We'll do nothing. We'll just maintain normal cooperation. Any superfluous actions now could lead to dreadful outcomes." The contemplative man in the suit agreed. "All right, let's do that." In a flash, 2 days passed. During these 2 days, Wu Heng made certain arrangements for Gold and Silver Island and the military factory. To ensure that even in his absence, they could operate normally and face no problems. In the courtyard. "Master, let us know when you've arrived at the place." Andre Willow leaned into his left side and said softly. "Yes, spend 2 days with Wen Mancha and come back quickly, we miss you too." Minnie hugged his waist from the other side and spoke in a cajoling manner. Wu Heng gently patted the backs of both women, comforting them. "Look after the house, I'll be back in a few days. If anything comes up, go find Zai Ligui." The 2 women hummed softly, snuggling closer into his embrace. Minnie raised her head again and said, "Then, when you come back, bring my 2 friends over, will you? The manor is so large, and I'm here all by myself every day." She's still thinking about those 2 friends. "That depends on whether they want to come." "I'll ask them then," he replied. "All right." After bidding farewell to the 2 women, Wu Heng donned the train captain's hat. The Phantom train appeared, and he boarded with Skeleton, waving goodbye to the 2 women. The train door closed, and the train delved into the void. Sitting down in the train car, Wu Heng's senses faded away. Chapter 500, Unstable London City. On the train, Wu Heng, accompanied by 2 skeleton attendants, sat on a long bench to one side. His mind involuntarily began to ponder the future developments. With most of his senses gone, he felt more focused. The management of London City was quite satisfactory, and it was certain that he needed to continue its development, which could provide a partial source of funds, as well as a fallback for himself. If there were problems with Gold and Silver Island, retiring to London City to become a sort of local emperor was actually a decent option. This time returning, he needed to handle some potential dangers for Lady Wen Mancha. Regarding Gold and Silver Island, first and foremost, he needed to keep a low profile. The association had given him status and power, but it was also a kind of shackle. He mustn't cause any unfavorable influences, especially with his profession carrying certain biases. The second point was to ensure the sea route was clear, to maintain the island's security, to attract more wealthy merchants to the island, and to increase trade, from which he could also gain considerable resources and benefits. The last point was the construction on the island. It wouldn't be a bad idea to replicate London City, setting up entertainments like the Money Cat on the island. After all, the Money Cat's market acceptance had been verified in London City. As for Zombie World, there wasn't much change in the direction of development. Level up, collect gold, and gather some related talents. He planned to gradually restore the power plant and some modern equipment, to make things more convenient for the development of both worlds. This time killing Boss Huang also showed that the abilities of the survivors in Zombie World were still not high. Even with superpowered men, they still couldn't compare to a continuously leveling professional like himself. As long as he wasn't targeted by firearms, no one could be his match. Moreover, several northern city strongholds and all the shelters depended on him for food exchange. Who would dare target him? Spreading word of it would likely lead to a public outcry. He quickly thought through everything in his mind. He took out the pre-prepared mansion skill book and started to browse through it. On the train, his eyes could still see things. He also took this opportunity to give the book a thorough read again. Not having unlocked the skill, he was still somewhat unwilling to accept it. After all, he had spent a lot of money on it. 7 days later. The phantom train emerged from the void, stopping in a clearing of a forest in the wilderness. It was also winter here, the trees were barren, and the ground covered with snow, which still bore some animal tracks and blood stains. Wu Heng stepped off the train with 2 skeleton attendants. He took a deep breath. As the phantom train disappeared, hunger, thirst, and a strong urge to relieve himself assailed him. He found a tree for a brief convenience. Then he took out some pre-prepared food and ate a few bites. Even if the phantom train was fast, one still had to be mindful of time, for without sensation, one could easily starve to death on the train. After sorting everything out, Wu Heng surveyed his surroundings. It was all dense woods, and he couldn't discern any direction or find his way to London City. At a thought, 2 ghosts flew out. One floated on each side. "Uncle, have we arrived?" Zhao asked. Glenda also looked over curiously. "We should have, but I don't know where exactly this is. Can you 2 check from the air for London City's direction, and where the road is?" Wu Heng said. Both ghosts nodded and immediately flew up into the sky. Soon after, Zhao was the first to fly down, clamoring, "London City is over there, it's changed so much, it's several times larger than when we left." "Really?" "Yes, uncle, after you left, the city became much better." "What are you saying, as if I was the one preventing the city from developing?" Zhao giggled mischievously. "I didn't say that." Glenda returned a bit later, saying, "There's a caravan coming from that direction, with the highest level being 10. You can take a carriage ride there, and on the way, you could learn some information too." In this area, transportation by caravan usually meant horse-drawn carriages. For a level 10 professional to serve as an escort was already considered a sizable group. It posed no significant threat to him. Glenda had even taken care to arrange it for him. What a good fellow. "Which way?" "Over there, you just wait by the roadside for a bit." Wu Heng nodded, heading to the road's edge with his skeleton attendants, while the 2 ghosts followed at his side, concealing their forms. Before long, a caravan slowly came into view. The caravan spotted the 3 figures standing by the roadside from a distance. The escort guards were on high alert, swords and blades were unsheathed, and strong crossbows were strung. "Gentlemen, what brings you to stand here?" A few professionals dressed in cotton armor approached quickly, stopping at a distance of 5 meters. "What's your business?" Wu Heng said, "We're heading to London City, it's a difficult journey, can you give us a lift for a section?" "We can pay." "How did you end up here?" The other party continued to ask. "We're from the Hueco Kingdom, we wanted to take a look at London City, but we encountered some accidents on the way and now only the 3 of us are left," Wu Heng replied. Among the people talking, 2 immediately broke away and ran quickly toward the back of the caravan. Meanwhile, tamed beasts took flight from the direction of the caravan, circling around the forest. After making sure there were no ambushes in the forest, the caravan pressed through the snow-covered ground, inching its way forward. A man wearing distinctly finer clothes approached, looked him up and down, then glanced behind at the figure covered up tightly. "All right, you can sit in the carriage, we're almost at London City," the man said. "Thank you." Wu Heng boarded the carriage, with 2 skeletons following on each side. After a while, having made small talk with the others, he casually inquired, "I've heard that doing business in the city is good and security is safe, is that true?" The merchant glanced back at him. "Are you also in business?" Wu Heng, wearing his cloak and cotton clothes, looked more like a young master from a family that had never known hardship. After all, even moving a table at home was done by a skeleton, without him lifting a finger. "Ah. Can you make a fortune then?" Wu Heng asked jokingly. "Haha. What kind of business are you in?" The man laughed, and the surrounding guards looked over with smiles as well. "Entertainment, like taverns, opera houses, that sort of thing." The man thought for a moment and said, "The security used to be pretty good, and the city was developing fast, but recently it's been a bit different. Some rumors have been spreading around the city, and less nobles and wealthy merchants are coming here for leisure." "What rumors?" The man hesitated, then explained softly, "The real master of this city isn't Lady Winmanshaw, but a former association captain who was transferred away. Only after that did Lady Winmanshaw take over the management. There are rumors that the captain provoked a level 18 professional outside and wants to destroy the city. Some say the city is a necromancer's experimental base, and when they need living souls for experiments, they snatch a few people." Wu Heng's brow furrowed slightly. How did the matter of a level 18 professional get spread here? "Really? There are all sorts of rumors, but indeed, recently there have been quite a few gangs popping up, making things more chaotic than before." "Then why do you still come here to do business?" Wu Heng continued to ask. The other party smiled. "I know what London City used to be like, it's much better now than when it was under Reno's rule." Reno was the name of the former city lord. Wu Heng nodded but did not continue to ask more questions. From what the other party said, he knew they were mostly rumors, not very reliable. But the affair involving the level 18 professional was probably spread here on purpose. After entering the city, he still needed to ask Wen Mancha what was going on. As the caravan drew near, a city had come into view that was more majestic and expansive than he remembered. Looking closely, one could still distinguish the inner city district, outer city area, and areas beyond the city. Only now, the area beyond the city was much larger, many times more than before. The buildings were laid out well, with winding streets. Carriages and pedestrians moved to and fro on the roads, with stall-keeping merchants on both sides. In the outer city area and inner city district, one could see towering arrow towers and watchtowers, flags fluttering in the wind. Impressive, isn't it? The merchant said with a smile, continuing, the area beyond the city is mainly lively, but the outer city area and inner city district are the good places. The ground is paved with blue stone slabs, magic illuminating stones line the streets, making it brighter at night than during the day, and there are also many fine shops that stay open late. Wu Heng looked at the city and nodded. City Lord's Mansion. Lady Wen Mancha sat on the City Lord's throne. To her left was a skeleton mage in a mage robe, and to her right a skeleton warrior in heavy armor and wielding a long sword. A female housekeeper, dressed in a black dress and wearing black-framed glasses, approached from the side and whispered, "My lady, 2 more officials from City Hall have submitted their resignations." Wen Mancha hesitated, but still ordered, "Settle their accounts and escort them out of the city." "Yes, my lady." Tap, tap, tap. Footsteps sounded as a man in leather armor entered. "Big sister, I have important news to tell you." As he spoke, his gaze swept past the housekeeper. The City Lord's Mansion's subordinates were divided into 2 groups. One group was the old-timers from the Pint Gang, who had fought their way up with Wen Mancha. Some left, some died, and the rest were trustworthy. The other group was recruited after becoming City Lord. Some were administrative staff, some were guards and patrol guards. It was a mixed group, employed on a contractual basis. Following his gaze, Wen Mancha scanned over and said, "No matter, she can be trusted." The brother immediately reported, "Big sister, our informants have learned that the Windfire Party and the Flying Snake Gang have teamed up with several other gangs to attack the inner city district." Wen Mancha scoffed, "Them? By themselves?" The brother added, "Outside, rumors say several high-level professionals have entered the city recently. Could this be related?" Wen Mancha's expression turned serious and she widened her eyes. Chapter 501, Solving the Problem. One update today. Please look at the ending of the last chapter again. There were some changes. Recently, the city has seen an increase in visits from high-level professionals. After all, London City, as an independent city-state that had developed so well, would certainly attract the attention of many. However, this was the first time someone had actually planned to take action. Wen Mancha pondered for a moment before looking at the corpse. How many high-level professionals are there? The corpse thought for a moment, then answered, "Unclear." There was one last question remaining. Wen Mancha asked, "When will they act?" "They will gather at dusk." After the 5 questions were answered, the corpse fell back with a thump. And the hall fell into a brief silence. Dusk. Winter came early to London City, and the sky was already growing dim. "Big sis, I'll take some men and strike first, so they can't gather together," the younger brother immediately said. Coming from a gang background, he still had a sense of combat readiness. The housekeeper pushed her glasses up and said, "Rushing over blindly might lead to greater losses. It'll be more troublesome if we let them gather up." Wen Mancha sat sideways in her chair, thinking about how to respond. The skeletons and carrion that could be mobilized in the city seemed numerous, but the skeletons were all stationed for city defense, patrolling, and protecting the City Lord's Mansion, scattered across different tasks. And the carrion were stationed in fixed areas because they carried diseases, and they hardly ever appeared within the city. If there was to be a battle, they would need to be recalled in advance. However, attacking the City Lord's Mansion wouldn't be an easy task. She had 2 high-level skeletons at her side, as well as a device left by Wu Heng named machine gun. They were enough to kill most of the enemies. Yet, even if they wouldn't really break into the City Lord's Mansion, it could cause some unrest and losses to the city. Since her body became inconvenient, one thing after another kept cropping up in the city. After quickly weighing her options, she softly commanded, "Notify everyone, lock down the inner city, no one is allowed in or out of the inner city gates. Reno, go bring back the carrion." She hadn't finished giving her orders when the mansion's doors opened from the outside by the skeletons. 3 figures walked in. And the skeletons around them, as if they saw nothing, remained stationary without a single motion. The 3 who were just discussing the crisis at the City Lord's Mansion immediately became alert. The younger brother pointed at the 3 figures striding in and shouted, "Skeletons, stop them, don't let them get any closer." The skeletons turned to look at him, then turned back without moving. The younger brother's face changed dramatically. "Big sis, you go first." When Mangekyō too frowned, scrutinizing the hooded figure. The figure who walked in then removed the hood and said with a smile, "When Mangekyō, I'm back." "Back?" The housekeeper looked puzzled, and the younger brother's eyes widened in surprise. On the seat, When Mangekyō's face lit up with joy. She stood up and exclaimed, "Master!" That one exclamation confirmed Wu Heng's identity. The housekeeper realized who had arrived, and the younger brother also quickly understood. "City Lord, you have returned." Wu Heng nodded, patting the other's shoulder. He then turned his gaze to Wen Mangekyō's noticeably round belly. By now, he had guessed what the surprise mentioned several times in the letters was. He quickly stepped forward, took Wen Mangekyō's hand, and asked, "Why didn't you tell me directly in the letters?" "I didn't want to delay your important matters, and I wanted to give you a surprise." Wen Mangekyō touched her belly and asked, "Do you like it?" "I love it," Wu Heng said with a smile. Since there were others present, the two didn't indulge in too much intimacy. Wen Mangekyō was helped back into her seat. Wu Heng then looked at the corpse lying on the ground. "What's with this?" "My spy in the outer city area was killed. I just performed Wenchai and got some information," Wen Mangekyō replied. She then relayed the information she had gotten from the corpse. The information was relatively straightforward to understand. It was that high-level professionals had secretly joined local gangs, planning to seize the opportunity to take control of London City. The motive was not hard to guess either, as London City had become a treasure trove. Everyone wanted to take it for themselves. Wu Heng asked, "When you say high level, what level are you referring to?" "Level 15, I'd say," Wen Mangekyō responded. "Where's the city map?" "Show it to me," Wu Heng requested. Wen Mangekyō had someone bring the map, and while sitting beside him, pointed out the location of the Wind Fire Party, as well as the city gates they were going to attack. Wu Heng nodded and said, "Leave the gang issue to me, it's not a big problem." The younger brother and the housekeeper both looked at Wen Mangekyō. With professionals at level 15, and not just one, it surely deserved some serious attention. Wen Mangekyō then said, "Listen to the master." The two nodded their heads. "Get the carriage ready." "Yes," the younger brother quickly left. Wu Heng then got up again and said to Wen Mangekyō, "Prepare some dinner. If I'm late, you eat first." "I'll wait for the master to come back," Wen Mangekyō said with a smile. Without saying anything further, Wu Heng stood up and left the building, choosing some skeletons in the courtyard and distributing firearms to them. Wen Mangekyō looked at the corpse and instructed, "Have someone send the body back to his family, double the consolation money, and if someone from his family wants to work in the city lord's mansion, make special arrangements." One could tell that Wen Mangekyō was in a very good mood. "As you wish, madam," the housekeeper responded. Wen Mangekyō slowly stood up and continued, "Let the kitchen prepare dinner, and about what I mentioned before, consider it as well." The housekeeper bowed her head, saying softly, "I'll follow madam's instructions." Wen Mangekyō nodded. The housekeeper directed the skeletons to carry the corpse away. At the same time, she went to the kitchen to arrange tonight's dinner. Chapter 501, Solving the Problem Inner City District. Inside a patrol office, Wu Heng sat quietly in the room, silently waiting. It wasn't long before Glenda and Zhao flew back, one after the other. Glenda shook her head. "I didn't find anything special on my end." Zhao was somewhat excited. "Uncle, I found something. A large group of people have gathered and are heading this way, 3 15-level professionals, and the rest are all 10 level and below, hundreds of them. 3 15-level professionals. In London City, that was indeed a luxurious lineup. If this were the past, during Reno's time as City Lord, he probably would have had to voluntarily open the gates and cede the position of City Lord. "Let me see," Wu Heng said. Professionals of level 15 shouldn't be a problem. However, the remaining number still needed confirmation. Zhao's ability to count was limited, and she was basically inaccurate with estimates over 100. Ow! Zhao directly dived into the body. The scene was shared as well. On the road, a troop of people traveled toward the inner city district from a distance, continuously joined by groups emerging from the side alleys. Gradually increasing, the number approached around 400. The shops on both sides also noticed something wrong and quickly closed for business. After observing, Wu Heng let Zhao out. Floating aside, she asked, "Is it the person we're looking for?" "Yes, Zhao, you're awesome." "Hee, I've made a contribution again." Zhao beamed with joy. Wu Heng then donned his cloak again and walked out of the building. He climbed up to the inner city district's wall and waited silently. It wasn't long before an overwhelming crowd appeared. The number had already exceeded 500. At the city wall location, a small team responsible for patrol headed to the gate below. They glanced around quickly and went out to meet the people outside, The gate isn't closed, I'll take you inside. The crowd nodded. They quickly passed through the gate and went straight into the inner city. At this moment, every member of the gangs was pleased deep inside. This was considered the most important step completed. The next step was to attack the city lord's mansion. As long as they killed that woman, the entire city would naturally be theirs. Their pace quickened. When the last person entered through the city gate, whoosh! Suddenly, the skeletons that had been guarding the wall, without any movement, all looked down at once. The dark muzzles pointed toward the crowd below. Fire! A command came from nowhere. Bang! 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 A series of explosions rang out swiftly from the top of the wall. Intense gunfire, like a downpour, fell from the sky. Ambush, spread out. Get up on the walls, kill those skeletons. Get back under the walls, they can't shoot there. Shouts rang out one after another. Meanwhile, bodies already littered the ground below. The gunfire ceased, and a series of smoke grenades were thrown from above. Thick smoke rose. Countless skeletons wielding weapons charged directly into the smoke. The smoke was in chaos. Wu Hang stood on the second floor of a distant building, looking at the battlefield afar. Zhao cried out, "Uncle, there are two 15 level 1s, they are so fierce. You've lost quite a few skeletons. Ghosts are unaffected by the smoke and can see the fighting inside." Wu Hang glanced at his side. "Kaizayu, go and kill everyone inside, make it quick." The 18-level skeleton Grand Boxer leapt down from the second floor. Landing with a light tap of his foot, he turned into a streak of light and shot out. His figure, stirring the airflow, cleared the smoke and charged straight into the combat area. Bang! He charged into the battlefield and punched as he went. A 15-level thief was sent flying backwards, crashing into the city gate. He vomited blood profusely as his body slid down the gate. At the same time, an armored warrior wielding a long sword struck down with a sword. He said coldly, "Fist Master, it seems the intelligence was really inaccurate. There's another high-level Fist Master. You can die here too." Kaizayu dodged like the wind and swung out a punch with an overwhelming force. The warrior steadied himself to defend, raising the long sword to block. The clear, ringing sound of metal clashing echoed alongside a tremendous force that spread from the sword. Such strength? The warrior stepped back while Kaizayu advanced without pause, his fists raining down like a torrent, pounding the sturdy armor. With each punch landed, the warrior's body blew apart layer by layer, blood spraying from his mouth. The long sword fell to the ground, and so did the warrior's body. "You're not third tier." Kaizayu didn't respond, continuing his charge towards the remaining enemies. Like a massacre, gang members were struck down one by one. About half an hour passed. The battlefield gradually quieted down, with a stench of blood hanging in the air. At a distance, several of Winmanch's subordinates tasked with blocking the roads hurried back. Staring at the battlefield, some appeared dazed. Was it over? Were level 15 professionals so easy to kill? Or was it that the city lord had become so powerful after a few months away that he no longer considered level 15 professionals a threat? Wu Hang descended from the building above and, seeing the group, asked, "Did anyone escape?" No one escaped. The men promptly snapped out of it. Wu Hang nodded. "Identify the corpses. Who is the gang leader?" "Right." The men began to distinguish the bodies. 3 level 15 bodies, 4 gang leaders singled out. Wu Hang glanced at them and cast Communicate with the Dead towards the first gang leader's corpse. The corpse sat up, gazing in this direction. Wu Hang asked, "What was your plan?" The corpse answered, "To follow 3 level 15 professionals and attack the city lord's mansion." Referring to them as level 15 professionals sounded unfamiliar. Wu Hang continued, "Who organized you, whom you know?" The corpse replied, "The Wind Fire Party." "Apart from the people who came today, do you have others waiting outside?" The corpse said, "Some stayed at the gang's residence." "Apart from those who came, were there other gangs involved?" The corpse answered, "There shouldn't be any others." After asking 4 questions, Wu Hang felt he wasn't getting any useful information from his mouth. So he directly dispelled the magic, and the corpse lay back down. Among the 3 level 15 corpses, he chose the thief who had died first and cast Communicate with the Dead. The corpse sat up, its murky eyes looking this way. Wu Hang asked, "Is there someone else behind you?" The corpse replied, "Yes, Krusty provided us with information and funding, as long as we could take over the city." "Were you sure you could take over with today's action?" The corpse replied, "Not sure, but causing disturbance was also an option." Wu Hang pondered for a moment, then asked, "Tell me about Kristu's identity." "Man, in his 40s, probably a businessman, very interested in this city." After a rough description, the discussion ceased. It seemed that was all he knew. Wu Hang continued, "Besides you 3, are there other high-level professionals?" "Not sure, probably none." "The last question." Wu Heng asked, "Where can we find this Chris-2?" "Don't know, he would arrange for someone to contact us." After 5 questions, the corpse lay back down. Wu Heng's brow furrowed further. This operation had the style of the secret cultivation hall written all over it. These fellows just wouldn't give up haunting them. Instead of causing trouble on Gold and Silver Island, they had set their sights on his London city. "This Chris-2, have you heard of him?" Wu Heng asked the few beside him. All shook their heads. Wu Heng nodded and unleashed the battleground of remains, causing the remaining corpses to stand up. The remaining bodies all turned into skeletons, including 2 level 15 corpses and the swathes of gang members that lay on the ground. "You all will have to work hard and command the skeletons to clean up here," Wu Heng instructed. "Yes, my lord," the men replied, beginning the cleanup. "By the way, don't speak of my return outside for now." "Rest assured, my lord, we know what to do," the men immediately vowed. Wu Heng nodded, mounted the carriage, and departed with the newly turned skeletons. The men left behind commanded the guarding skeletons to tidy up the battlefield while whispering amongst themselves. "When did Captain Wu Heng come back?" "Just got back, and luckily we received information about these people." "He must have come back because his wife is pregnant, right?" "I heard so, she wrote to the city lord, he had to come back and see." "Yeah." Wu Heng rode the carriage back. A sumptuous dinner was already laid out on the table. When Mangekyō curiously looked at him, "You're back so soon?" "Killed some minor gang members, not much difficulty," Wu Heng said offhandedly. This time, Wu Heng didn't even use the machine cannon. Easier than expected. When Mangekyō, somewhat surprised, asked, "Were there level 15 professionals?" "Yes, all 3 are dead, turn 2 into skeletons standing outside as punishment, to vent your frustrations," he responded. When Mangekyō clapped exaggeratedly, "The master is incredible." Wu Heng glanced at the housekeeper beside him. "Stop fooling around." Sitting down together at the dining table, Wu Heng spoke between bites. "Have you heard of this Chris-2?" Chapter 502, "They are all yours Chris-2?" When Mangekyō whispered, repeating the name, but she shook her head. She thought back but still shook her head. She had no impression of this person. Wu Heng explained, "According to the information obtained by Wenshai, the man providing information and plans to the level 15 professionals is this person, a male merchant." When Mangekyō's eyebrows raised. "Since he is a merchant, it shouldn't be difficult to investigate. There have indeed been several new merchant caravans arriving in the city recently. I'll have someone look into it, identifying him shouldn't be hard." Wu Heng nodded, leaving the matter to Wen Mangekyō. Finding such a person should not be difficult. The entire matter was discussed. The two continued eating while chatting about the situations in their respective locations. Wen Mangekyō was quite interested in Gold and Silver Island. "Master, madam. The room is ready," the housekeeper said softly as she descended the stairs with quick steps. When Mangekyō nodded and turned to Wu Heng, "This is my housekeeper, Harut." Wu Heng also turned his gaze to Harut, scrutinizing her carefully. Not yet 28 or 29, with brown hair tied back, she wore no jewelry, had an oval face, and black-framed glasses. Her expression was serious, exuding an air of cool, intellectual maturity. "Hello, Harut." "Master." The housekeeper curtsied again. When Mangekyō smiled as she rested her chin on her hand, watching Wu Heng. After dinner, Wu Heng took Wen Mangekyō for a walk in the courtyard. Then they returned to the living room and slowly climbed the stairs. "I'll set up a communication device in a room close to your bedroom." Wen Mangekyō asked with a smile, "What's a communication device?" "It's an item that will allow you to keep in touch with Gold and Silver Island at any time," Wu Heng explained. "Good." They went upstairs together. In the room next to the bedroom, Wu Heng installed a radio. He picked up the microphone and demonstrated its use to Wen Mangekyō, saying, "With this, you can send messages directly to Gold and Silver Island, there's no need to write letters, and you can chat casually." Wen Mangekyō, sitting beside him, asked, "A special item? Does it have any side effects?" "Think of it as a magical prop. You should also arrange for a skeleton investigator on your end so that if any messages aren't received, they can be recorded," Wu Heng explained. Wen Mangekyō nodded with a smile, "Okay." After briefing her about the radio, the sky darkened, and Wu Heng accompanied her back to the bedroom. On the couch, Wen Mangekyō, wearing a nightgown, sat at the edge of the bed. Wu Heng placed his ear against her stomach, listening to the heartbeat inside. Wen Mangekyō sat there smiling, speaking softly, "Master, do you prefer a boy or a girl?" Wu Heng looked up and sat beside her. "I like both." "Minnie and Andre Willow, haven't they moved yet?" Wen Mangekyō continued to ask. "Not yet, it seems we are more in sync." "Master, really, you make one's heart flutter." Wen Mangekyō snuggled into his arms. Wu Heng wrapped his arms around her and lay down on the bed. "Let's rest, Early sleep is good for your health. After turning off the lights, Wu Hang held her as they both slowly fell asleep. The next day, early in the morning, after breakfast, Wu Hang left a message for Wen Manxia and then went upstairs to pick a room to head to Zombie World. After all, the journey had taken a considerable amount of time. It was time to check on the situation here. Upon leaving the building, the number of survivors in the factory yard had increased. No special circumstances had arisen. Soon, Chi Hangkai approached from a distance, her boots clicking. King. Called overtime, he had gotten used to the title. It was no longer as awkward as before. Wu Hang nodded and asked, "The provincial rescue team hasn't caused any trouble, has it?" "No, but I heard that Boss Huang is dead," Chi Hangkai said, glancing up at his expression. A few days earlier, a spy arranged by the rescue team was captured. Wu Hang had said he would take care of it, but how and the final outcome were never discussed. Yet, just 2 days later, the rescue team sent a group of people over. They mentioned strengthening cooperation and the possibility of providing technical personnel to maintain and train staff for the other factory equipment. It was subtly mentioned that Boss Huang had committed suicide in his study. The body was already buried, and they wouldn't pursue the matter. Even though the entire event took place within the other party's shelter, Chi Hangkai was sure it was Wu Hang's doing, a man who posed a threat to the shelter, dying by suicide in his own study. The change in attitude of the rescue team was likely because they guessed as much. Wu Hang did not elaborate further and asked, "Any problems with bullet production?" Chi Hangkai pondered for a moment, then said, "2 issues. One is the gunpowder supply, which is almost depleted from what you brought over, and the other is the unstable power supply. The solar panel's storage is inconsistent, making it difficult to maintain full-day operations." In the end, it was still a power supply issue. The establishment of the power plant had to be expedited. "Any results on acquiring personnel for the power plant?" Wu Hang asked again. Chi Hangkai replied, "There are 2 potential sources. One is from our city's survivor-based Jinjiang apartment district, claiming they have the relevant technical staff. I looked at the map, entering the central district is required. The other option is the main station, they said they could provide the blueprints." Wu Hang's eyebrows raised. One was a survivor from the provincial area, the other was the main station offering blueprints. At present, the local survivors were the most feasible option, but once rescued, whether they could produce the blueprints for a power plant was uncertain. After all, such engineering blueprints couldn't be accomplished by just one person. However, there was no way to retrieve the main station's blueprints. "What are their conditions?" "The survivors would join us, while the main station is still under negotiation. They also mentioned transportation issues, offering to airdrop the blueprints to us," Chi Hangkai said. "Airdrop? That's indeed a method. Then continue to negotiate with them and ask about the terms of exchange," Wu Hang said. "Okay." Chi Hangkai stood aside, watching the bustling crowd. "It's half a month until the new year, and I never imagined we would live to see this time." Her voice carried a hint of emotion when she spoke. Wu Hang understood her feelings. In the current world and environment, most people can only take it one day at a time. There's no future and no aspiration. It's like this here, and even more so in other smaller shelters. If you can live, you live. If you can't, then so be it. It'll get better in the future, trust me, Wu Hang assured her. Chi Hangkai smiled, You guys arrange it yourself, throw a party or have something good to eat. I'll discuss it with Yang and see how to settle it." "Good." The two stood at the door and chatted for a while. Wu Hang then returned to his room. The plan to kill zombies and level up would resume after going back to Gold and Silver Island. A few days' difference wouldn't matter. Back at the city lord's mansion, Wu Hang came downstairs. Wen Mangekyō was standing in the living room, directing the skeletons to orient a painting properly. She seemed more amiable and gentle now, unlike the decisive and ruthless gang leader's wife of the past. When Wen Mangekyō saw Wu Hang come down, she let the butler continue directing the skeletons and took Wu Hang's hands herself. "Come, I'll show you our gains from this period." No sooner had he come down the stairs than he was being led back up. They entered the study and opened the secret door inside. Behind the door were hung various jewels and a big box of glittering gold coins. Wen Mangekyō said with a smile, "All these are yours." Wu Hang raised an eyebrow. London City was more profitable than expected. It's no wonder why so many people had their eyes on this city. "I will take half, and you keep the rest to continue developing the city," Wu Hang declared. London City's development was indeed impressive, and it should only get better. And these gold coins, if left in London City, could be used to build it up. But if taken to Gold and Silver Island, just arming a few ships and buying some goods could deplete them. Wen Mangekyō nodded, "Okay, as you say." Wu Hang took half of the gold coins. He sat down at the desk. Wen Mangekyō sat next to him, softly detailing the city's subsequent development and the industries invested by the city lord's mansion. Besides the money cat, the city's pubs, inns, and breweries all had investments. When Mangekyō had truly undersold herself becoming the gang leader's wife. In the afternoon, there was a knock at the door. The voice of the female butler came through. "Sir, ma'am, Commander Audiobooks has arrived," she said. Audiobooks was the subordinate who brought back the corpses yesterday, a former member of the Pint gang. When Mangekyō straightened her clothes and said, "Let him in," the door opened. The subordinate, clad in leather armor, walked straight in. "City Lord, big sister." The subordinate saluted, then continued, "I've found some information about a man named Chris too." When Mangekyō asked, "Who's that?" "He's the steward of the White Ram trading caravan. He died today in an inn's private room, and his tongue was cut out too." When Mangekyō's brows furrowed, her expression turning grim. This was clearly meant to stop their investigation. "Don't worry," Wu Hang said, holding Wen Mangekyō's hand, then turned to the subordinate. "Were there any suspect items found?" "Yes, we found a hood nearby that the person might have discarded." "Go get it for me." "Oh, all right." The subordinate left quickly. In Gold and Silver Island, killing someone and taking the tongue had fallen out of fashion. Even the head would be chopped off and taken away. At London City, not many people had space rings. Taking the head would be too conspicuous. "You have a way?" When Mangekyō inquired. "It depends on whether the hood belongs to the murderer," Wu Hang replied. Before long, the subordinate hurried back. He brought a blood-stained hood and handed it over. Wu Hang took out the tracing locket and placed it beside the hood. The skeleton on the locket began to chew on the edge of the hood, and a pale blue soul strained from the locket. It raced in a direction. On the outskirts, on a road leading away from the residential area. The assassin trying to leave London City was pinned firmly to the ground by a skeleton. His face pressed against the snow, his breath scattering the snowflakes in front of him. "What should we do, sir?" Audiobooks asked. They had pursued all the way to the outskirts and almost let the person escape. Wu Hang glanced over. "Kill him." Chapter 503, involving so many the assassin's eyes were wide with terror as he said, Don't, whatever you want to know, I'll tell you." The younger brother made no move. The skeleton Karam had already slit his throat with a long sword, blood gushing out like a waterfall. The assassin's body slowly fell, twitching until motionless. Wu Hang released, "Communicate with the dead," and the corpse slowly climbed to its feet. "Who sent you to kill Chris too?" The corpse answered, "Our family's master." "Master?" "Not a hired assassin but a guard." "Who is your family's master?" The corpse replied, "The chairman of the Golden Wing Chamber of Commerce." Wu Hang looked at his subordinate Audiobooks across from him, who shook his head indicating that he was not familiar with this Chamber of Commerce. He continued to ask, "Where is the chairman?" "Inner City District, Eastern District Number 3, at the residence of Building 72, that's where he lives." Audiobooks quickly took notes. Wu Hang asked again, "What were his exact orders to you?" "Kill Chris too, make sure the city lord's mansion finds the body, then take the money and leave London City. Return after some time." Wu Hang gestured with his hand, dispelling the magic directly. The corpse fell down again. Its equipment was stripped clean, and the body was tossed aside. "Let's go to the Inner City District." Inside the carriage, Glenda flew back from a distance. She appeared and said, "A man, in his 40s, when I entered, he was still asking if anyone had left London City. He must be referring to that person we just encountered." "How many guards are inside?" "More than 20 guards, one of level 15, the rest around level 10, and 6 servants." Wu Hang nodded and pulled open the curtain of the carriage. "Audiobooks." "My lord." The younger brother quickly approached. "There are more than 20 guards inside, lead the skeletons to storm in and bring the man out, it doesn't matter if he is dead or alive," Wu Hang said. Then, to someone outside the carriage, "Karam, follow them." After giving instructions, Audiobooks led a host of skeletons, turned the corner, and charged straight to the front door of the residence. Kicked open the building in front of him. He stormed in directly. The sounds of fighting and shrieking rose within the mansion. It was chaos. The fight did not last long, and the sounds of battle gradually ceased. Audiobooks ran back. "My lord, it's over. Your skeleton chopped off the head of the strongest one inside, and that merchant was also killed by the skeletons. Go inside and check." The carriage drew nearer, and Wu Hang walked straight into the mansion. The ground was littered with bodies. Wu Hang glanced at the merchant in a brocade robe and bent down to remove the space ring from his finger. Space ring, 5 cubic meters, he examined its contents with his spiritual power. Some personal belongings, gold coins and silver coins, as well as several drafted agreements. Surgon tribe iron ore purchase agreement, Diaborg copper ore purchase agreement. It seemed he was engaged in some trade agreements within London City.
purchasing a certain quantity of ores. He pocketed the space ring. Wu Hang cast, communicate with the dead, on the body. The opulently dressed corpse sat up, its cloudy pupils looking on. Wu Hang asked, were the 3 level 15 professionals who attacked the inner city district yesterday arranged by you? Yes. Why did you do that? To take over London City and make it a stronghold. Indeed, it was all his arrangement. Wu Hang glanced at him, considering asking if it was the secret cultivation hall's doing, but the words did not leave his mouth. Previously, I had inquired the bodies of secret cultivation hall members. When related matters were mentioned, the bodies would trigger some sort of secrecy spell, and the Wenshai would automatically be lifted. I pondered for a moment. I asked, are there any other people involved within the city? The body replied, no more. Wu Hang asked, if you take over, what will the plan be afterward? The body answered, to use London City as a base, to provide Hueco Kingdom with weapons and equipment, to gain a strategic advantage in politics. Wu Hang's eyes narrowed instantly. How come it's related to the Hueco Kingdom again? The last question. In Hueco Kingdom, what's your plan? To support the second prince, to become the king. Wu Hang's eyes instantly widened. He was even more astonished by this result. Their scheme was even larger, they were now plotting for the throne of Hueco Kingdom. And the old king isn't even dead yet. 5 questions answered. The body fell back down. Wu Hang released, corpse battlefield, turning the bodies scattered around. He continued, stand guard. Clatter. Clatter. Skeletons took up guard over the mansion. Wu Hang then left with his men, let's go back. Back at the city lord's mansion. Wu Hang reported the results of the investigation to Win Mancha. The good news was, the matter with the 3 level 15 professionals had concluded, and the culprit behind the scenes had been found, already dead. The bad news, the last merchant was almost certainly a member of the secret cultivation hall, and these people were good at scheming. Using some means, they attempted to intervene in the power structures everywhere, to seek greater benefits for themselves. At the same time, it had something to do with the Hueco Kingdom as well. This wasn't good news. When Mancha listened quietly, her face not overly concerned, it's so dangerous, why don't you stay? Wu Hang was taken aback and pinched her face, we can't leave the association yet, nor can I leave Gold and Silver Island for too long. When Mancha rolled her tongue, sucking on his finger, muttering, when will we no longer need to leave? When we no longer need to rely on the association. Wu Hang gently scraped Wen Mancha's soft tongue. Wen Mancha thought for a moment, then said, actually, it's nothing much, London City has developed to this point, it has attracted the attention of many. Wu Hang nodded, by then, I'll arrange for more skeleton guards, don't worry, I will definitely not let you be in danger. You say that as if I am afraid of these things. After dinner, Wen Mancha took him, slightly disguised, and together they went to the city's money cat. They watched a song and dance performance in City That Never Sleeps, London City. Only after the performance ended did they return to their dwelling to rest. The next day. Zombie World. Outside Jinjiang apartment district. Series of dense roars arose on the streets. In the room on the rooftop of the building, 2 survivors huddled in a corner, trembling with their heads covered. A middle-aged man with a receding hairline peeked out from underneath a window smeared with waste paper, watching as dragon skeletons with stark white bones soared past above the street. They dropped concentrated ammunition, smashing into the zombie horde below. After every bombardment, zombies perished in droves. Uncle Wang, is it the base on the radio? A young man asked softly from behind. The man with the receding hairline swallowed and shook his head. I don't know, outside are skeletons bombing the horde. Then it must be them, isn't that their superpower, to control skeletons? The young man was a bit excited. The man with the receding hairline said, but, there are no humans to be seen, only skeletons. Are 2 monster groups fighting each other? Crackle. Crackle. At that moment, a voice came through the radio. This is Zinfu City Base, can anyone in Jinjiang apartment district hear me? Chapter 504, The Old Power Plant. The radio suddenly spoke, startling the 2 men into pale faces. The Mediterranean man quickly glanced outside and resealed the lifted newspaper. His voice was frantic, what did you just say? The young man was somewhat uncertain, it seems like the people from Zinfu City are contacting us. While the 2 were speaking, the radio's voice rose again. This is the Zinfu City Rescue Team, can the people in Jinjiang apartment district hear us? On the second call, the 2 heard it loud and clear. Joy simultaneously appeared on their faces. They really were contacting them. There was hope. They must be dead. No one is responding. Just the other day someone was talking, it shouldn't have gone wrong by now. Are you guys for real? The population in the Jinjiang apartments is so dense, how are you going to rescue them? At most we can tell them to flee on their own, gather somewhere, It's impossible to go in for the rescue. God bless, amen. Immediately, the voices of discussion from other shelters transmitted on the public frequency. Surprised that the Zinfu City base was actually carrying out a rescue, they also doubted why no one from Jinjiang Apartments was responding, wondering if something had happened. The young man handed the homemade microphone to the Mediterranean man. Uncle Wang, you speak to them quickly. The Mediterranean man picked up the microphone and said, This is Jinjiang Apartments. Have you arrived? Inside the radio, the voices of discussion from various shelters abruptly stopped. Everyone maintained silence, as if waiting for a reply from the other side. Once again, a voice came through the radio. We have arrived at the east gate of Jinjiang Apartments. Please prepare to evacuate, take all necessary essential supplies with you, and do not carry weapons capable of inflicting damage or contagious hazardous items. The eyes of the two inside the room instantly widened. They had arrived? At the eastern gate of the apartments? The skeletons fighting the horde of zombies outside, were they really theirs? The young man quickly walked to the window, pulled it open, and leaned out to look towards the east gate. Looking down, a huge throng of skeletons surrounded an exaggeratedly modified truck, parked on one side of the road. Uncle Wang, there really are survivors, they've truly come to get us. The Mediterranean man quickly walked over and peered out. After the initial joy, he became worried. Should we leave with them? They seem different from the other rescue teams. The Mediterranean man suddenly became hesitant. However, the young man's tone was firm. Uncle Wang, if we don't leave now, we won't live much longer here anyway. That made sense, indeed. If they stayed, how much longer could they really survive? Then let's pack up, take all we need to take. Okay. The young man went to gather his items. The Mediterranean man, on the other hand, picked up the radio microphone again. We see your convoy, we are now packing our stuff. Wait for our message, then we'll calm down. Okay. After the two finished speaking, the radio was quiet for a few seconds. Then the noisy discussions resumed. Damn, they really went to rescue people. We are here on Yunpo Road, can you come for a rescue? We are at Tanhai Building, requesting rescue. There's a lot of money in the safe, all of it can be given to you. Cries for rescue rose one after another. People continuously reported their locations, requesting rescue. Battlefield below. With the last zombie falling, the whole area quieted down. The cold wind blew. The nauseating stench of decay drifted away, only to saturate the air again. Clean up the battlefield. The skeletons moved again, dragging the bodies, clearing the road. Wu Heng opened his panel and glanced at his experience points. Level 17, 137,851, 265,000. The population density in the province was even more intense than in ordinary cities. Coming over from the factory, heading straight for this Jinjiang apartment, he had killed almost 90,000 zombies along the way. At this rate of progress, after cleaning up 2 more times, he would almost be able to reach level 18 and become a 5th-tier professional. The battlefield was nearly done being cleaned. After Wu Heng converted the bodies of the evolved zombies and collected all the dropped corpse cores, he began to release corpse battlefield along the road. One after another, skeletons rose from the ground. Wobbling their bodies, they slowly joined the ranks of skeletons. Soon, the number of skeletons filled the entire street, where the head and tail were endless. At that moment, Chi Hengkai came over with 2 people. He said, Wang Haibing used to work at the power company, and Zhang Zong just graduated from college, specializing in agriculture. Then he introduced Wu Heng, our leader. You can call him Leader Wu or King. Leader Wu, the two greeted nervously. What they saw from upstairs was different from the scene on the ground. From upstairs, their view was obstructed by the building, allowing them to see only a part. But it was not until they came downstairs that they realized the horrifying amount of skeletons. At that moment, as someone led them through the ranks of skeletons, they felt as if they were being escorted step by step towards the underworld. They even felt their body temperature dropping. It was only now that they could see clearly that the leader was such a young man. Wu Heng nodded, his gaze turning to Wang Haibing, who was somewhat balding and looked distressed and disheveled, appearing to be in his 50s. Can you design a power plant? I participated in the design of power plants, Wang Haibing emphasized. Can you design one independently? The drafting of the blueprints, the specifications of each part and the building? Wang Haibing fell silent, beginning to sweat on his forehead. After pondering for a moment, he said, I don't dare to deceive you. I believe I understand the structure and operation of the power plant well, but the design of an entire power plant requires many people to complete. I alone cannot do it. Actually, Wu Heng was also aware of this issue. The design of a building requires the collaboration of many individuals. Rescuing just 1 or 2 people would not be sufficient to design a power plant. After pondering for a moment, Wu Heng asked, "Can you restore an existing power plant to operation?" "As long as it's not severely damaged, I am confident I can get it running." Wang Habing immediately responded. Wu Heng nodded. "All right, go back to the truck and rest for a while, later follow the convoy back to the base." "Okay." The two carefully walked back to where the convoy was positioned. Chi Hengkai asked, "Can't they do it? Take him back and see if the power plant near the factory can be restored to supply electricity." Wu Heng continued, "Let everyone search the vicinity and load any useful items on the truck, we will bring them all back together later." "Okay." Chi Hengkai picked up the walkie-talkie to give out the tasks. The survivors began to search the shops along the road. A large number of skeletons moved various supplies onto the trucks. As dusk gradually fell, the convoy started to return. Upon returning to the factory area, it was already pitch black. They had originally planned to take the newly joined Wang Habing to the power plant near the factory. But because it was too late, they dropped the idea. It was decided to go there tomorrow instead. There was no rush for the moment. Leaving the remaining tasks to Chi Hengkai, Wu Heng returned to his dormitory, passed through the boundary door, and went to the city lord's mansion in London City. In London City, the sky had also darkened. Carefully going downstairs and after eating something, he returned to the bedroom again. The room was dark, faintly visible was Wen Mancha lying on her side. He tiptoed into bed. Wen Mancha turned over, looking at him with a smile. "Did I disturb you?" Wu Heng softly asked, looking into her eyes. "No, otherwise I wouldn't have been asleep." Wen Mancha curled into his embrace and continued, "I contacted Minnie through that radio during the day, we chatted for a while, and I kind of miss the times we spent together. How are things on Gold and Silver Island?" Wu Heng hugged her. "Nothing much." Minnie said a small pirate named Philippa returned to the island and brought back quite a few pirate corpses. Andre Willow reviewed the island's merchant fleet, chose a few with good reputations to cooperate with, and signed a goods agreement. Wen Manchura called softly. It seemed everything was still normal. Wu Heng nodded. His departure had not had much of an impact on the entire Gold and Silver Island. After all, even when he was around, he would frequently go to Zombie World, and Gold and Silver Island would still operate normally. "I told her about the baby, and Minnie is so envious, she wants to come over next time to have a look," Wen Mancha said with a smile. "They should be brought back to visit sometime if there's a chance." Wen Mancha nodded in response and took his hand to place it on her chest. "I'm a bit swollen, master, could you rub it for me?" Wu Heng gently pressed. "It has grown quite a bit." Wen Mancha smiled. "Do you want me to help you?" "How can you help? It's not convenient for you. You sit at the edge of the bed, and give me a little support." Wu Heng got up to drape a blanket over her and sat down at the edge of the bed. Wen Mancha knelt in front of him, with slow and gentle movements. The next day, at the dining table, Wu Heng and Wen Mancha ate breakfast together. "Is the deputy steward of the city still the Beastman shaman?" Wu Heng put down his chopsticks and directly asked. "When he was still the association team leader. The deputy steward of London City was a shaman from the Beastman tribe, an honorary local deputy steward. As long as he was there, the Beastmen in the city wouldn't cause too much trouble. He held a lot of prestige among the Beastmen." "It's still him, not much has changed in London City," Wen Mancha responded. "What's his name?" "Ethan Ashka Earl. Invite him to come over. I got a few Beastman district procurement agreements from the last corpse, let's see if we can take over," Wu Heng said directly. The merchant they had killed last time had several procurement agreements in his space ring. It was just a matter of seeing if they could take over. Wen Mancha's eyebrows slightly knitted, reminding him, "Those Beastmen are not easy to deal with. That's why I want to talk to the shaman." Wen Mancha nodded. "Should I ask him to come over this afternoon?" "Let him come this afternoon." After chatting for a while, Wen Mancha went to the office study with the butler. Wu Heng went upstairs to find a room that led to Zombie World. He stepped out of the boundary door. Wu Heng walked slowly downstairs. Standing at the door, he waited for a while before the vehicle convoy drove straight up. He got into the passenger seat. The convoy drove directly out of the factory area and headed for the nearby power plant. This area had been cleared before. The journey was rather smooth without encountering any zombies or dangers. The convoy stopped outside the power plant. The rusted iron gate was half open, and the yard was filled with withered yellow weeds covered in snow. Clang! The iron gate was directly knocked open. More than 20 zombies, moaning and crowded, rushed out. Rustle! Without needing an order, the skeletons stepped forward, their sharp spears pushing back the oncoming zombies. Then, the dense spears continuously struck the zombies, killing them all. He ordered the skeletons to fully open the gates. Everyone walked in. The power plant was larger than anticipated, with huge chimneys, warehouses, and equipment workshops. Wu Heng stood outside and waited. Wang Habing and a few other survivors skilled in electrical work came out. "How is it?" Wu Heng asked. Wang Habing said, "I took a quick look, the equipment was turned off automatically, and nothing seems damaged at the moment. It shouldn't affect the use, but we still need to check it thoroughly." "Is it a thermal power plant?" "Yes. To generate electricity, we will need a lot of fuel to provide heat." Wu Heng nodded. "Choose a few people, and you will be responsible for inspecting this place over the next few days. I'll let you know what to do later, okay?" "Okay," Wang Habing agreed. After resecuring the power plant, they left a portion of the skeletons to guard it. The convoy returned. In the afternoon, London City, City Lord's mansion. The Beastman shaman, wearing a tribal-style robe and leaning on a wooden staff, sat on the sofa in the hall. Across from him, Wen Mancha was smiling and chatting idly. The sound of footsteps came from upstairs. The somewhat elderly Beastman shaman looked up. And then, his brows furrowed slightly. Chapter 505, Spy in the Disk. Time passed, and the old shaman seemed to have undergone little change. His skin was wrinkled, but his body still appeared strong and burly. He was an old beastman with green skin and a sturdy physique. Wu Heng slowly descended the stairs and greeted with a smile. "It's been a long time, Vice Executive Ethan Ashka Earl." The beastman shaman's brows instantly relaxed, revealing a smile that looked somewhat fierce to those of the beastman tribe. "Vice Executive Wu Heng." When he had left London City, Wu Heng had been serving as the vice executive. The news that he had become the flag bearer had yet to reach this place. "How has everything been lately?" Wu Heng came down and sat opposite. The beastman shaman spoke calmly. "Lady Wen Mancha has been managing the city well, and the association is also at peace. Lady Wen Mancha told me that it's because you are stationed in the city that the public order has been as good as it is now." The beastman's face showed an even broader smile, and he nodded in agreement. He also believed in his heart that his presence indeed helped the overall security of the city. "Vice Executive Wu Heng, do you have business to attend to on your return this time?" "Nothing major, just came back to check on things and to arrange some matters. There is often much instability outside, but coming back to the city that Wen Mancha operates, your life henceforth should be without worries," the beastman shaman said, as though imparting wisdom like an elder. Wu Heng replied indifferently, "There are also more opportunities outside. While I was on Gold and Silver Island, my steward was the prince of the elf race, the strongest level 18 professional at the time. He killed a level 17 Ronin with a single strike, cutting him in two. Then there's Dean Jian Vito, a level 18 mage, with disciples spread across the continent who wield significant influence. I might join the Dean's research group later, but I'm still hesitant." The beastman's eyebrows raised slightly. Clearly, he was somewhat surprised by what Wu Heng had just shared. Level 18 professionals, one the strongest elf prince, the other a level 18 mage with disciples all over the continent. Goodness, was the outside world really so exciting? One trip outside and he had established such a wide network of contacts. Meanwhile, in London City, level 18 professionals were figures out of stories. After pondering for a moment, he said, "That indeed differs from our small place here." After mentioning the two level 18 individuals he was familiar with, Wu Heng continued, "I've asked you to come over because there is something I want to discuss with Vice Executive Ethan Ashka Earl." "What is it?" "Someone has offered me some mining agreements." Wu Heng took out several agreements. Surgon Tribe Iron Ore Purchase Agreement, Diaborg Copper Mine Purchase Agreement. The Beastman shaman glanced at them and immediately understood their implication. The listed locations were all Beastman tribal areas. The provision of the mineral resources was for a duration of 3 years. This was to prevent the Beastman from either not acknowledging the contract or failing to fulfill it as agreed. The Beastman shaman looked up at him and then nodded, saying, "If you can guarantee there won't be any disputes, I can help you negotiate this matter." "Don't worry, there won't be any disputes. Then I'll discuss the matter, and if the tribes have signed the agreements, they will follow through according to the terms. Who will take charge of the goods when the time comes?" "Lady Wen Mancha will handle it when the time comes," said Wu Heng. He wasn't planning to stay here long, and the mineral supply was to continue for several years. It was best left to Wen Mancha to manage. "All right, I can assure you there won't be any problems with this matter," the Beastman shaman confirmed decisively, then continued, "There's another issue. After winter, I hope the city can offer more jobs to the Beastmen." Wen Mancha glanced at Wu Heng, and seeing that he expressed no objection, she too nodded in agreement. "That can be done. The city lord's mansion needs more craftsmen, and the outskirts require more construction workers. We can prioritize the Beastmen, but we need to agree on security issues beforehand. You must ensure that the Beastmen will not cause trouble. I will make the arrangements." The three of them discussed further and finalized the arrangements. They reached a kind of trade-off. The Beastman shaman would help with negotiating the agreements, and when Mangekyō agreed to provide more jobs in the coming year. When the time came, more Beastmen would enter London City. The following conversation was mostly small talk, with the Beastman shaman showing curiosity about Gold and Silver Island. Wu Heng, in turn, inquired about the Beastman tribe's attitude toward Hueco Kingdom. Their discussion lasted until past 4 in the afternoon. Only then did the shaman take his leave. After the Beastman shaman left, Wu Heng handed all the agreements to Wen Mangekyō. "Master, how do you plan to utilize these mining resources?" Wen Mangekyō inquired. Wu Heng replied, "I'll think about it and then make arrangements accordingly. Copper and iron mines are useful, but Gold and Silver Island is some distance from here. It would actually cost more in time and transportation fees to ship by rail to Gold and Silver Island than to purchase from the various caravan groups on the island. If Wu Heng were to use the Phantom train, even he wouldn't have time to run back and forth for this matter. When the time comes, he'll consider how to arrange everything, either for local use or for sale as another form of income." "All right," Wen Mangekyō nodded. Dinner was ready, and they went to the dining room together to eat. Late in the night, in the bedroom, a soft knocking sound arose. Wu Heng and Wen Mangekyō opened their eyes, one after the other. "What's the matter?" Wen Mangekyō asked. From outside the door, the housekeeper's voice came through. "Master, madam, there's someone outside asking for intelligence. Come in and talk." Wen Mangekyō sat up, leaning against a headboard. In the dark, the door opened. The housekeeper walked in, wearing black framed glasses and a beige nightgown. "What's the matter? Speak," Wen Mangekyō said. The housekeeper replied, "We've received a message from the outside asking about the situation inside the City Lord's mansion, who it was that killed 3 level 15 professionals, and whether there's a powerful being inside the City Lord's mansion." "Did you answer them?" "No, I plan to ask the master and madam before deciding how to reply," the housekeeper said. Wu Heng felt somewhat confused. It seemed that Wen Mangekyō's housekeeper also had a special identity. He turned to look at Wen Mangekyō. "What's going on?" Wen Mangekyō gathered her tousled hair and began to explain the whole thing. The housekeeper, Harut, was the wife of a civil servant from the city hall, recommended to work in the city lord's mansion to serve as an informant. Once, when she was caught peeking at confidential documents by the skeleton mage Deadbone, she was discovered. Higher-level skeletons possess intelligence not inferior to living creatures, even higher, they simply have a semblance of a false soul, appear a bit dull, and don't speak. Once her activities were exposed, Harut confessed everything. Wen Mangekyō did not kill her. After confirming that she wasn't bound by a slavery contract, Wen Mangekyō made one with her. She became Wen Mangekyō's slave. This was also why Wen Mangekyō trusted her so much. Under a slavery contract, there's no worry that the other party will harbor any notions of harming herself. Now, Harut's husband was using Harut to gather information about the city lord's mansion. Meanwhile, Harut, while providing some unimportant or fake intelligence, was in turn gathering information herself. After listening to the explanation, Wu Heng found himself surprised as he looked at the two women. It was straight out of a spy thriller. "Why not just kill that man?" Wu Heng asked curiously. Wen Mangekyō explained, "Harut's husband is implicated with other forces. Killing him would just lead them to bribe someone new. Better to keep him where we know what he's up to." "Which force?" "Hueco Kingdom." Wu Heng's brow furrowed. Again, the Hueco Kingdom. Was Harut's husband connected to that merchant from before? That shouldn't be the case. If they were working together, their plan wouldn't be so contradictory. If they weren't, how did the Hueco Kingdom become involved again? And why was everyone eyeing London City? Chapter 506, Not Your Forte. Having understood everything, Wu Heng looked back at Wen Mangekyō. He asked, "What was your plan before?" "The original plan was to keep things at a stalemate. After all, it doesn't really affect us. The Hueco Kingdom is currently in turmoil internally, with little energy to focus on this side," Wen Mangekyō explained. The high-ranking officials of the Hueco Kingdom were preoccupied with power struggles and taking sides, not paying much attention to London City. But all these were mere speculations from Wen Mangekyō's side. Who knew if someone had already set their eyes on his place, considering London City a piece of fat dripping with oil? After pondering for a moment, Wu Heng said, "While I'm in the city, let's resolve this matter today." Wen Mangekyō looked at the housekeeper. "Do you have any problems with this?" The female housekeeper kept her head down and said softly, "I'll follow whatever the master and mistress decide." Wen Mangekyō glanced at her side. "I will find you a better man later. As long as I'm with the mistress, I am satisfied." Wen Mangekyō nodded. Wu Heng said directly, "First, go call Lockett over, and I'll assign them tasks." "Yes, master." The housekeeper quickly left. Wu Heng watched Wen Mangekyō, who was about to get dressed, You continue to rest, I'll take care of things tonight. When Mangekyō pouted, where have you heard of a maid resting while the master does the work? Besides, I'm not that fragile. Now you have a more important task. Wu Heng touched her belly. When Mangekyō did not insist any further, her face filled with a smile. Then I will surely complete this task well. Rest well. Wu Heng quickly got dressed and left the room, closing the door behind him. He sat downstairs for a while. The younger brother Rocket came over with a few people. City Lord. The group saluted. Wu Heng nodded. I need you to capture someone. Harut will lead the way. Alive or dead doesn't matter, bring him back as quickly as possible. Yes, City Lord. After speaking, the group left the City Lord's mansion with the housekeeper, heading towards the residential area of the inner city. Late at night. The grand hall of the City Lord's mansion. A middle-aged man in pajamas knelt in the middle of the hall, his hair a mess, his lips turned purple from the cold on the way here. The man quickly glanced at the housekeeper beside him, his eyes filled with astonishment and suspicion. Suspecting that his actions were exposed, but why was the housekeeper unharmed while he was captured and brought here? Had he been reported? But that didn't make sense either. His mind raced. He felt he still had a chance. After all, he was an official at the city hall. As long as he found a reasonable excuse and the other party couldn't produce solid evidence, they wouldn't kill him so easily. He would think of a plan later. Strangle him, and don't dirty the floor. As he was contemplating how to defend himself, a faint voice came from above. Ah! The middle-aged man exclaimed, his face showing horror. The skeleton beside him took rope from behind and wrapped it around the man's neck, pressing a knee into his back and gradually applied force. The middle-aged man's body struggled violently. As he was unable to break free, his complexion turned a purplish blue, his eyes rolled back, and his body gradually went limp. The skeleton loosened the rope. The body collapsed onto the floor. The housekeeper closed her eyes, choosing not to witness the scene in front of her. You go rest in the dining room for a while, and I'll call you when there's a task. Wu Heng descended and told the few subordinates. Rocket and the others saluted and headed into the nearby dining room to wait. After everyone had left, Wu Heng looked at the corpse and cast Communicate with the Dead. Necromancy magic enveloped the body. The fallen middle-aged man sat up again. Wu Heng walked down and cast Communicate with the Dead directly at the corpse. The fallen body sat up, its murky pupils looking his way. Wu Heng asked, "Who's the person behind you?" With his tongue sticking out awkwardly, the corpse mumbled, "Eastern border city of the Hueco Kingdom, Commander Godwin." Indeed, it was related to the Hueco Kingdom. Wu Heng continued, "What task did he assign you?" The body answered, "To gather intelligence on London City and destabilize the city hall from within." "What are your subsequent plans?" The body answered, "To prepare for the occupation of London City." After thinking for a moment, Wu Heng asked, "This Commander Godwin you speak of, how high is his professional level?" The corpse pondered for a moment. He should have reached level 15. Last question. Harut, prepare the pen and paper. The housekeeper opened her eyes and quickly found pen and paper nearby, readying herself. Wu Heng continued to ask the corpse, "Who else in the city is one of yours? Tell me everything." The corpse began to answer, "City Lord's housekeeper, Harut, City Hall, Ricardo, patrolling guard, Gracie." Name after name was recited. The housekeeper earnestly recorded on the side. Once all of the names had been said, the 5 questions were also answered. The body fell back to the ground with a thud, once again becoming just a corpse. "Master, I've taken note," said the housekeeper. Wu Heng took a look at the list and handed it back. "Have Rocket arrest them, kill any who resist, and lock up those willing to cooperate until when Mangekyō wakes up and decides what to do." "Yes, Master." "Also, keep the rest of this to ourselves, let no one else speak of it." "Yes." The housekeeper replied, leaving with the list towards the dining room. The younger brothers waiting there rapidly left City Lord's mansion with a list to apprehend the suspects. Wu Heng also exited the building. Putting on the train captain's hat, he vanished on the spot. Early morning. Hueco Kingdom, Eastern Border City. Wu Heng, with his hood on, walked directly into the city. This was the mandatory route to London City from the Hueco Kingdom, a place Wu Heng had passed through before when the Phantom train did not exist, even purchasing a horse-drawn carriage in the city, where he encountered the ghost hag posing as a nun. The seductive nun, the ugly ghost hag. They left a significant impression on him. Wu Heng booked a private room in a tavern and sat for a while. Glenda flew back in from outside. Revealing her form, she said, "Found him, in the patrol guard leader's resting room, flirting with a noblewoman. I watched for a while, his sweet nothings are no match for yours." "Ah. You eavesdropped on mine too," Wu Heng said with a shocked sidelong glance. "I'm complimenting you, yours are much more sophisticated than his," she replied. Wu Hang didn't want to engage her further on the topic, always feeling that Glenda was very interested in such matters. He asked directly, "Are you sure it's him?" "He's the only level 15 professional in the city. I watched the others calling him Commander Godwin, so it's definitely him," Glenda stated. Wu Hang nodded, so it really was him. Under spirit vision, locating some fixed targets really did become much easier. "Let me see." Glenda dived into his body, sharing the vision with him. In a room at the patrol guard building, a burly man was pressing a noble woman against the table. They had moved on from flirting to the real act. Shouts and moans intertwined within the room. Glenda watched for a while before flying back from the building. She relayed the details to Wu Hang. After confirming the man's appearance and identity, Wu Hang released Glenda back into the open. "You call that flirting?" Wu Hang questioned. Glenda replied nonchalantly, "I was referring to before, not the part you just saw." Wu Hang was somewhat speechless. "Let's go, we'll finish quickly and then leave." Packing up, they both exited the private room. Heading to the location of the patrol guard building. They waited in a small alley across the street. Glenda flew out from inside and said, "That woman has left, and there aren't many others inside, just kill him, and you can leave." Wu Hang glanced across. A tall woman with seductive manners emerged, her face full of post-joy glee. Wu Hang took a careful look at her. Putting on the illusion veil, he approximately assumed the woman's form. He handed the corpse-wrapped skeleton Kaizayu beside him, who draped it over himself, concealing his form. Then Wu Hang walked directly into the building. The guard stationed at the door merely glanced at him and ignored the coquettish looks, turning his head away. Wu Hang stood outside the commander's room and looked around. Seeing no one, he pushed the door open and walked in. The disheveled man was sitting behind a desk drinking wine. Seeing her enter, he began, "Not afraid of your husband anymore?" However, mid-sentence, his gaze suddenly sharpened. Chapter 507, Do You Have Family? Ho! A whooshing sound echoed. A figure shot out from thin air, reaching the desk in the blink of an eye. Before the other party could stand up, a fist struck their throat. Kaba! The sound of breaking bones resounded. Then, a second punch landed on the temple, knocking the figure to the ground. Fist after fist rained down, leaving the head unrecognizable. Finally, cradling the head in his arms, he twisted, snapping the neck. Wu Hang glanced at the corpse and quickly pulled out a mat from the space ring, wrapped up the body, and stowed it back in the ring. Urgent footsteps approached from outside. The sounds of the fight had attracted attention. After stowing away the corpse wrap, he opened the window. Taking Kaizayu with him, he leapt from the third floor, releasing the feather fall skill mid-fall, landing softly on the ground, and disappeared into the streets. He went straight out of the city. Arriving at a deserted wilderness, Wu Hang took out the corpse and released communicate with the dead. The corpse opened its eyes again and looked over. Wu Hang asked directly, "Who instructed you to target London City?" The corpse answered, "No one." This answer was somewhat unexpected. Wu Hang continued, "Then why did you arrange for people to collect intelligence on London City?" "I received orders from above to increase the Crown Prince's influence while also gathering more funds, and London City was the most suitable choice." Wu Hang's frown deepened. The merchant from the last assassination had mentioned the second prince. And now a crown prince had appeared. What was it about London City that attracted them? The whole Hueco Kingdom's dispute was even drawn here. Wu Hang then asked, "Is anyone else involved in the events concerning London City?" "I've arranged some spies in London City to investigate the City Lord's mansion and the City Hall." Wu Hang asked, "After your death, will there be others targeting London City?" "I am not sure, there shouldn't be." "What has become of the Hueco Kingdom internally?" "I am not sure." After answering 5 questions, the corpse closed its eyes once more. That was somewhat good news. His personal interest in London City hadn't reached the higher echelons of the Hueco Kingdom. He had a skeleton rolled up the corpse, and Wu Hang stowed it in the space ring. He boarded the Phantom train and returned to London City. This assassination went quite smoothly. Without much effort, he had killed the target. He returned to the City Lord's mansion. When Mangekyō was dealing with the people captured last night, Wu Hang did not step in, leaving everything to her to handle. It wasn't necessary to kill everyone, after all, some couldn't touch the real intelligence and were only likely to have inadvertently shared mundane details with others during work. In the study, he briefly explained to Mangekyō that the problem was solved. Then he didn't concern himself further. Finding a room, he went to take a look at the zombie world. Stepping out of the dormitory, he picked up the walkie-talkie and called Shi Hankai. Soon, she arrived with Wang Habing and several old-timers from the base, walking from behind. Wu Hang asked, "How is it?" Wang Habing flipped through several photos on his phone. "There was a big fire at the factory here, some wires have been burnt out and need to be repaired. So the power plant is not the issue. The power plant is fine, it can work normally with some maintenance, mainly it's the wires in the factory that need repair, Wang Habing explained. For Wu Heng, this was indeed good news. If the power plant had been damaged, it would have been far more complex than fixing wires. Finding the necessary parts could be close to impossible. Wu Heng nodded calmly, then said, get the damaged wires fixed as soon as possible. If you need any materials or equipment, talk directly to Chi Hengkai and she'll help you sort it out. Okay. With that settled, Wu Heng continued, I also need the blueprints for the section using fuel for heating to be redrawn, including the specifications and requirements. Wang Habing's eyebrows furrowed as he cautiously said, I'm not quite clear on what you mean. I'm going to use new materials to replace the original boilers, and I will need you to provide the dimensions and some specifications for the boilers, Wu Heng explained, then turned to Chi Hengkai, when you have time, take him to the old factory area in Zinfu City to see what the furnace looks like. Chi Hengkai immediately understood. I have a video here, you can take a look at it first. She took out her phone and played a video she had recorded earlier. Even without signals and networks, the survivors still carried tablets and phones to record events or take photos and videos. After all, charging a phone was still feasible. Wang Habing paid close attention to the video, the device in it was used for melting iron. But the heat it provided was enough for the corresponding power supply. He promptly agreed, I understand, I'll get right on it when I'm back. Good, get it done as soon as possible, I'll need to use it in a couple of days. Understood. Wu Heng looked at Chi Hengkai again, keep in touch with the main station, ask them for a complete blueprint of the power plant, and dare drop it over here. Alright, I'll contact them right away. After a brief conversation, everyone returned to their respective positions. Wu Heng and Chi Hengkai looked over the burned area and discussed matters of cleanup and reconstruction. The factory area had plenty of engineering vehicles, so clearing it wasn't an issue. But as for rebuilding, that would have to wait until after the spring thaw. After looking around the factory, Wu Heng returned to his room and headed back to London City. City Lord's mansion. After dinner, Wu Heng took Wen Mancha for a stroll in the courtyard. When they returned to their room, Wu Heng took several elixirs and items out of his space ring and laid them on the table. In a soft voice, he said, Constitution-enhancing elixirs, I've saved some extra for you to take after the baby is born. This item is good for your skin, this one can form a protective shield when you're attacked, and this is a fairy flower crown, which can nourish the body and even allow you to communicate with animals. Wen Mancha sat quietly by, her face only bearing a faint smile. Wu Heng taking all these things out also signified it was time for him to leave. After all, he was still needed to oversee things on Gold and Silver Island. I'll put it on for you, Wu Heng said, picking up the fairy flower crown. Wen Mancha gently bowed her head to let him place it on her. The moment it was donned, she felt the gentle energy flow through her body. It looks beautiful, like a queen, Wu Heng said with a smile. Wen Mancha gently wrapped her arms around his waist, resting her head against him. You must come back to see us when you have time. Once things settle down, I'll take you to live on Gold and Silver Island. You haven't seen the ocean yet, have you? Minnie can take you swimming when the time comes. Okay, as long as I can be by your side, anywhere is fine, Wen Mancha said softly. Let's pack up these things and head to bed to rest. Wen Mancha packed away the items and elixirs. Together they returned to the room. Wen Mancha led him to sit at the edge of the bed, then carefully knelt in front of him, hands resting on his legs. Is this comfortable, master? Wu Heng stroked her red hair. Comfortable. Once the baby is born, I'll take good care of you. Then we won't leave the bedroom for a whole day. Then you'll have to take good care of your body, she said. The next day, morning, Wu Heng met with the people from Andre Willow's clan at the City Lord's mansion. Men and women alike, some even holding little fox people, had settled down in the city. Wen Mancha had indeed taken good care of these fox people clan members, arranging some to join the city's guard team and the rest in the city's lingerie stores. The well-known Red Rose lingerie store in the city was one of Wen Mancha's businesses. It was also the first store that specialized in women's lingerie. Wu Heng chatted with the Fox People clan for a while, inquiring about their lives and sharing about the life of Andre Willow, the young clan leader of the Fox People. They all seemed quite happy with the conversation. Afterward, Wu Heng turned his gaze to two small figures accompanying them, a petite cat girl and a white floppy-eared bunny girl. What are your names? Wu Heng asked. These two were the friends Minnie had mentioned. They were the ones Minnie had bought from the slave trader with her own money. Hearing the question, both appeared a bit shy, while the other fox people looked at them intently. City Lord, my name is Roby. The little cat girl hopped down from her chair and bowed. The floppy-eared bunny girl followed suit. My name is Annette. Roby, Annette, do you have family in the city? No, both women answered. Wu Hang continued, many asked me to inquire if you would be willing to go to Gold and Silver Island to work as maids. The two Beast Woman girls glanced at each other, then nodded, we are willing. Then go pack your things, and this afternoon you'll leave with me. Yes. Both women seemed a mix of excited and apprehensive. They then left with the Fox People clan to prepare their belongings. Wu Hang had also planned to see Aizen, the local head of the Snake Badge Consortium in London City. However, when Mangekyō mentioned she had been transferred away, and the new person was now in charge locally, Wu Hang figured she must have been promoted. After all, before he left, he had helped her complete a significant trade in gold. In a place like London City, that was an astonishing achievement. He felt happy that he could help a friend get promoted, but also a bit downhearted that she had left without informing him of her whereabouts. Approaching the afternoon, Wu Hang had everything prepared. 2 skeleton attendants had been sent back through the boundary door. Taking the 2 little beast woman maids with him, he boarded the phantom train and disappeared on the spot. In no time at all, the train re-emerged, and Wu Hang donned a cloak. The 2 maids also covered their faces a bit. Together they walked through the city gates. They had only taken a few steps inside the gate when a familiar voice chirped from behind them, "Hey! You 3, from out of town? What brings you here?" Wu Hang turned to look back. He saw a young girl with slightly curled shoulder-length hair, hands on her hips, leading a group of 4 team members. She swaggered towards them. Chapter 508, How Did You Become the One? Looking at the fierce little girl, Wu Hang was also taken aback. He hadn't expected to run into an acquaintance just after entering the city. Yuli, the druid who loved snacks and could transform into various animals. When he was a team member in Blackstone Town, the 2 of them had the best relationship. Now the relationship was still good, they just belonged to different circles. Wu Hang had not used the association's concealment cloak, but instead was clad in an ordinary hooded cloak that covered his head and face, leaving only a pair of eyes exposed. Yuli's eyes scrutinized the 3 of them, slowly walking over. She demanded sternly, "Hey you 3, what are you doing in the city?" Seeing that she hadn't recognized him, Wu Hang replied, "I am an association member, passing through here, planning to stay for one night." "From the association? Do you have any proof?" Yuli asked. Wu Hang took out his flag-bearer badge and handed it over to her. Yuli frowned slightly as she held the badge in her hand. The association's emblems all had a uniform standard and represented the identity of the bearer. But this emblem? She could confirm it was from the association, but it seemed unfamiliar to her. "What kind of emblem is this?" she inquired. Wu Hang said, "Take me to your steward, and I will explain then." Seeing that he had a good attitude and the emblem was indeed from the association, she let go of some of her suspicions. "Let's go, I'll take you there," she said. Wu Hang and the other 2 followed her toward the association. Along the way, Wu Hang asked, "The streets seem pretty empty, huh? Do people in your area wander around outside in the winter?" She shot back. "Then why are you out patrolling when there's not a soul in sight on the street?" He countered. Our team is serious and responsible," Yuli declared, lifting her head proudly. They continued towards the association's main hall. Yuli addressed the team members, "Go to the break room first, I'll call for you later." The team members nodded and went their way. Then Yuli led the 3 of them through the corridor to the steward's office. She knocked lightly on the door. "Come in," came the response. Yuli glanced back, her gaze landing on Wu Hang, and said, "You, come with me." "Right." Wu Hang nodded and followed her into the office. "Steward, during our training, we found these 3, claiming to be association members from outside," Yuli reported immediately upon entering. Steward Slither was seated, working on documents, and a cheetah lay by the fireplace. The cheetah walked over, circled him sniffing, then went back to lie on the floor. Slither lifted his head to survey them and asked, "Where are you from? What's your business?" "From Gold and Silver Island," Wu Hang replied. "Gold and Silver Island?" Yuli suddenly turned around, and Slither also looked over with a doubtful expression. Wu Hang removed his hood, showing his true face, and greeted with a smile, "Long time no see, Steward Slither, Captain Yuli." "Wu Hang!" Yuli exclaimed in surprise, leaping up and throwing herself at him. Wu Hang instinctively caught her and hushed, "Shush, don't yell. I can't be too conspicuous here." "Oh. I thought that voice sounded familiar." "It's you." Yuli lowered her voice but was clearly thrilled. After the initial surprise, Slither saw their intimate interaction and frowned slightly. He glared at Wu Hang and said with some reproach to Yuli, "Behave yourself, Yuli, you're not a child anymore." Yuli pouted and then obediently stood aside. Turning to Wu Hang, Slither inquired, "Did you go to London City?" "Yes, I went back to deal with some matters," Wu Hang replied, taking a seat. The cheetah came over, jumped onto the couch, and leaned against him. "How long do you plan to stay?" Slither asked. Wu Hang petted the cheetah and responded, "Just overnight, I'll be leaving in the morning. I mainly came to check on you all." "That quick, huh?" Yuli remarked. Slither added, "You must have spent all your time over in London City." To the questions from the two women, Wu Hang answered with a smile, "You might not know yet, but I am now the island master of Gold and Silver Island. I can't be away for too long." Both of them furrowed their brows. "Island master? What's that?" Yuli asked. "Just like a city lord manages a city, an island master manages the entire island," Wu Hang explained. "A promotion by the association?" Slither inquired. Wu Hang explained, "It's an appointment by the association, but separate from it, they don't interfere with the normal development of the island. My position in the association is as a flag bearer." Yuli was even more astonished. "No way. How did you get promoted again, and why?" The young girl felt somewhat unbalanced internally. They were both originally members of the 5th Squad. Wu Hang had become the captain and the vice executive, which Yuli could still somewhat accept. She had also been making an effort, becoming the squad captain. But now Wu Hang had become the island master and also a flag bearer. Suddenly, the gap between them had widened again. "Not bad, leaving here was the right choice," Slither commented. Wu Hang then said, "Those two at the door are my servants. Have someone lead them to my quarters so we can chat comfortably." "Yuli, you go," Slither instructed. Yuli opened the door and called for a staff member to take the two others to their destination. Then, she returned. Picking up the cheetah, she placed it on her lap and continued the conversation. "Wu Hang, do you have a lot of pirates over there?" "There used to be quite a few. They occupied a vast area of the sea, making it very likely to encounter pirates when going out to sea," he responded. "Are they as dashing as the ones in comics?" she asked. Feeling Slither's warning glare, Wu Hang replied, "The comics romanticize pirates. Those people are all ruffians, much like the land-based pirates we know, with ugly faces, yellow teeth, and bad breath. They are the enemies of the association." Chapter 508, How Did You Become the One? Yuli showed a look of disgust. "How do you know about the yellow teeth and bad breath?" "When I was the vice executive, I killed quite a few." Wu Hang continued to recount the evil deeds of those pirates. Yuli listened seriously by his side. While reading comics, she felt that pirates were quite handsome. But now, after hearing his description, she didn't feel the same anymore. Luckily, she hadn't actually sneaked out to become a pirate. "So how did you become the island master?" Yuli continued to inquire. "Strong abilities, good looks, and being heavily relied upon by the association, isn't that very normal?" "I don't believe it. You definitely bought the position with money, you're so rich." "How could that be possible?" "Such an important matter can't be bought with money," Wu Hang said as he patted the cheetah. "Actually, after I killed some pirates and accumulated enough merit, and some people on the island jointly recommended me, I was appointed as the island master." "Oh, so that's how it was," Yuli nodded. Slither also asked, "How about London City?" "When Mangekyō, who comes from a gang background, seems to have some managerial talent. The development indeed exceeded my expectations. I also took a glance at the money cat. Even if it's moved outside, it's a very good industrial outlook." Slither smiled, liking the recognition from the other party. "Since you've become the island master, do you have any plans for the island's development?" "For development, I do want to replicate London City's model. When the opportunity arises, you can go have a look and maybe open a bigger money cat." Wu Hang shared his thoughts. After thinking it over, Slither said, "That's possible. I'll also visit the island sometime, and when I'm done being a steward, I might move to your Gold and Silver Island." "Andy, take me with you. I've never seen the sea," Yuli immediately said. Slither gave her a look. "There's nowhere you don't show up." "Hee hee, Andy, you're the best." Wu Hang also chimed in, "It's better to go there in winter, when the temperature is just right. It's a bit hot in summer. We'll see when the time comes, we'll make time for it." After finishing their serious conversation, Wu Hang brought out some items. "I brought gifts for you." One by one, the magical props were presented. Both received a protection pendant, and a stay youthful bracelet. Such items were rare in London City and scarce in Blackstone Town as well. They were both surprised and somewhat excited. Then, Wu Hang took out a space ring and handed it to Yuli. "A space ring with 5 cubic meters of space. It'll make storing things much more convenient." "Wow, you're so rich." Yuli immediately put it on her finger. She collected the two items. Wu Hang continued and placed a pair of blood-colored dual blades and another space ring on Slither's desk. The space ring is also 5 cubic meters. The dual blade is named the Bloodthirsty Twin Blades, a special item that can grant someone explosive fighting power in a short time. The side effects are also clear. It will gradually cause you to lose your sanity. Be careful when you use it. When they heard special item, both women's pupils suddenly constricted. He actually presented a weapon class special item. In Blackstone Town, this would be a reward for a second-level merit. Give it to me? Is that okay? Slither was somewhat skeptical. It was normal for one's man to bring back a gift. But still, he felt that it wasn't very useful to him. After all, Blackstone Town wasn't dangerous. Wu Heng smiled and said, "It's suitable for you, carry it and use it, just be mindful of the side effects." "Then thank you," Slither happily accepted. Yuli, who was beside them, felt that her space ring wasn't so surprising anymore. "Wu Heng, are you playing favorites? Why do I have one less item? I haven't found a weapon that suits you yet. When I do, I'll save it for you." Yuli thought about it and agreed, "Alright then." Slither was in a good mood, got up, and said, "Let's go, now that Wu Heng is back, let's celebrate and also send something for your two servants to eat." "I know a good tavern," Yuli said excitedly. "Go book a private room." "Okay." The three of them chatted in the tavern until late into the night, then returned to their places to rest. The night was deep. The door to Wu Heng's room was gently knocked. Upon opening the door, he saw Slither, quietly standing at the entrance. His eyes kept darting around, as cautious as a thief. Once the door was fully opened, Slither quickly entered the residence. After closing the door, they kissed passionately and headed towards the bedroom. Entering the bedroom, they quickly took off their clothes. Slither pushed him forcefully onto the bed and straddled him somewhat roughly. Both of them exhaled deeply. "Why did you only come to see me now?" Slither complained a bit. "I've really been busy." Squeezing out the time for this trip wasn't easy, Wu Heng said as he held her waist to assist her. Slither shot him a look, then gently leaned down, lying on top of him. "If you hadn't come back, this steward might have gone looking for you at Gold and Silver Island." Wu Heng smiled and lightly patted her pert behind. "When the money cat is established, you'll have a good reason to." "That's not so simple. With the tense situation in Hueco Kingdom, how could I possibly leave? We'll have to wait for a chance." "What's going on with Hueco Kingdom?" "In London City, I killed two enemies who were coveting the city lord's mansion, both from Hueco Kingdom." Wu Heng was curious. Slither paused her movements, and her brows knitted together. "Both from Hueco Kingdom?" "Don't stop." Wu Heng gently patted her as he waited for her to continue before saying, "One claimed to be the crown prince, and the other claimed to be the second prince." It's unclear why they were both focusing on London City at the same time. Slither pondered for a moment, then explained, "Currently, the most influential princes in the kingdom are the crown prince and the second prince. The crown prince is backed by the military, while the second prince has the support of many bureaucrats and nobles. The remaining princes don't have much influence. It mainly depends on which of those two can make it to the end." Chapter 508, How Did You Become the One? Isn't the old king still not dead? Is it still that important if he dies now? He hasn't been able to govern for such a long time, and power has already been gradually dispersed. It's actually because he hasn't truly died that there hasn't been a real internal conflict. "You make a good point," Slither said with a smile. "Don't worry, I will inform Mangekyō in advance if there is any danger. Although we are not that close, after all, it is your property, and nobody is going to touch my man's things." "That's so cheesy." Wu Heng smiled. "Do you like to hear that?" "I do, say more." Slither cupped his face and said softly, "My dear hubby, you're awesome." After saying that, she kissed him deeply. The next day, Wu Heng stepped down from the carriage. After saying goodbye to the two of them, he walked directly toward the city outskirts. On the carriage, two gazes followed him until he walked far away before turning back to return. On the city streets, a few figures dressed as ordinary citizens passed by the city gate. One of them stopped, looking at the figure gradually walking away into the distance. "Bella, what are you looking at? Hurry up, don't let the others wait for too long." Someone walked back from ahead, also following her gaze. "That person's back, why does it feel somewhat familiar?" The woman named Bella said. "Who? Never seen them. They seem to have just gotten off the association's carriage. Must be someone from the association, we better not cause trouble." "Someone from the association?" Bella's eyes widened instantly. The person beside her said, "Let's go, today is the day of prayer, don't let the elders wait too long." "Right. Okay." Bella nodded and quickened her pace. But her gaze still occasionally turned towards the direction where the figure had disappeared outside the city. 9 days later, the phantom train appeared in the wilderness of Gold and Silver Island. 3 people got off the train, and a sense of discomfort immediately arose. Because they brought 2 beast women and their levels were not high, they stopped several times along the way to eat and rest. This also caused a slight delay in their journey. The weather was hot here, and Wu Hang had changed out of his cotton clothes and looked back. He saw the two staring at the distant sea, slightly dazed. "I'll let Minnie take you to the sea if there's a chance. Change out of those cotton clothes, don't get heat stroke," Wu Hang immediately reminded. They responded and quickly took off their cotton clothes. Dressed in somewhat skimpy attire, they followed Wu Hang into the city. Upon entering the city area, they called for a carriage to go to the island master's manor. Returning to the manor, they pushed open the big door and went in. Slim, splashing fountains and the wind-swaying flowers and trees made the two beast women's eyes widen once again. They had seen the city lord's mansion and thought it was already very luxurious. What was before them now was even more magnificent. Footsteps sounded as Minnie and Philippa ran out from their residence. "Master!" Minnie plunged into his arms, and Philippa also hurled herself into the other side. "Is everything alright at home?" "It's fine, everything's going well," Minnie replied. Wu Hang gently patted her back. "Your two friends have come, you take them to choose their rooms first." Minnie turned her head towards the back and then saw the two who had just taken off their hoods. Excitedly she said, "Roby, Annette, you guys are here." She hurried over and hugged them both. The little cat woman Roby said, "Minnie, your place is so beautiful." Annette said blankly, "It's so hot here, I'm going to get heat stroke." "I'll take you inside, there's air conditioning." Minnie pulled the two into the room. Philippa, more focused on Wu Hang, asked, "Where have you been these past few days? Missing me?" "Not at all, I caught so many pirates, and not bragging to you about it feels like a loss." Wu Hang wrapped his arm around her shoulder and walked toward the room. "Minnie told me through the radio, you killed the Mad Lion pirate group and brought back a pirate?" Philippa scratched her face and said, "Yeah, my friend, I told you before that all the pirates want to kill me, but he spoke up for me, really righteous. His wife was taken by someone, and he only wished them happiness." Chapter 509, Electricity Consumption of 220,000 people. Wu Hang found the whole situation overwhelming. His wife was kidnapped, and he was supposed to wish the kidnapper happiness. How could this happen to a pirate? Where is he? Zai locked him up in prison, and I wanted to talk to you to see if you could spare his life instead of killing him. He's not a bad person and he even saved me. Philippa clung to his arm. "Please, Daddy." Being locked up by Zai meant his name was also on the wanted list. Once a warrant was issued, unless there was a record, it was difficult to erase. Releasing him directly was obviously impossible. If caught again, it would bring trouble to the Gold and Silver Island Association. But, the man did save Philippa, and without him, she might have died out there. "I'll talk to Zai later and see if there's a chance for him to redeem himself by making amends," Wu Hang said. "What does making amends mean?" "It means to perform new meritorious deeds to make up for past mistakes." "Oh, only you mages are cultured." They returned to the room together. A catwoman and a lop-eared bunny girl were cooling off on the sofa. "Let's go, I'll take you to pick rooms, you can choose from the second or third floor," Minnie called out to them. Philippa also shouted, "I want to pick one too." "Why do you get to pick? You're not living here." "There are so many rooms, it won't make a difference with just one more." Philippa hurriedly followed them. Together they headed upstairs. Wu Hang returned to his bedroom and changed his clothes. He then went to the radio room and picked up the microphone. "When Mancha, I'm back on Gold and Silver Island, no need to worry." He had only intended to send a greeting. From the radio, Wen Mancha's voice followed closely. "Master, was your journey smooth?" "It was smooth. There haven't been any issues there in the past few days, have there?" "No, the city hall has started rehiring, and the defense skeletons have been rearranged," Wen Mancha reported. When Wu Hang left, he had left her nearly 20,000 skeletons. They were all transferred from Zombie World. For London City, this was a substantial military force. They could directly attack the eastern border cities of the Hueco Kingdom and would likely succeed. There was also some ammunition left behind and off-road vehicles equipped with machine guns. It wouldn't be easy if there were really intentions to take it down. Wu Hang continued with his instructions, "Take care of yourself and don't overwork." "I know. When the baby is born, I'll take him to see you." "All right." He hung up the radio and Wu Hang continued out of the room. He entered the opposite alchemy laboratory. The skeleton alchemy warlocks hadn't made significant progress. On the product shelf beside them, there were many finished elixirs and first-level corpse core potions. After Wu Hang collected everything, he proceeded to the mechanist's room. The entire room was still being organized by the mechanists. Wu Hang glanced over and noticed that the compound bow blueprints had been sorted out, with the materials and dimensions for various parts all marked accordingly. His absence had not delayed the skeleton's work at all. He also collected the finished blueprints. Then he went downstairs and casually chatted with Minnie and the others. Toward dusk, Andre Willow returned from City Hall. During dinner, Wu Heng listened to Andre Willow talking about the island's progress. The construction crew was still expanding, and the addition of various construction vehicles multiplied the speed of the entire project. Workers had now begun the house construction work. For the trade caravan purchases, the city hall had signed procurement agreements with 6 companies, 2 of which involved direct copper coin procurement instead of copper ore. The remaining 4 were for white gunpowder and lead. If the quality and speed met the standards, they would continue to purchase. Many asked, why not wait for Shanela to come back for the procurement? We could definitely save quite a bit of money. Philippa joined the conversation. She and Wu Heng are lovers, and we can't just buy everything from one place, just as we separate the goods to sell. Before, food and weapons were bought together. That situation you mentioned never happened. Philippa scratched her head. Then I don't know, maybe they argued. Shanela isn't here. If she were, we would have sought her out. Don't make wild guesses, Wu Heng said and then asked, has Shanela sent any messages lately? No, I hope there's no danger. Many looked up. Wu Heng also frowned and pondered for a moment. She shouldn't be troubled, returning to her clan like that. Nobody should give her a hard time. Yeah, that makes sense. Sister Shanela is so wealthy, everyone would want to be on her good side. As the group chatted while eating, the newly joined Roby and Annette ate quietly, listening in on the conversation. After dinner, they then had a training session in the training room. Philippa returned to the tavern. Wu Heng called all the maids to the living room. Looking at Roby and Annette, he said, I need to sign a slavery contract with you. Minnie must have mentioned it to you. The 2 exchanged glances and nodded. Master, we are willing. Then let's begin. Who will go first? Little cat girl Roby stepped forward, her eyes resolute and her head held high. I'll go first. There was a sense of nobly facing one's fate. Roby was a cat person from the Beastmen tribe, with her brownish-gray hair and matching brownish-gray cat ears and tail. Her height was around 1.4 to 1.5 meters, a small beastman. Wu Heng smiled. It's okay, don't be nervous, it won't affect your future life at all. I'm not nervous, Roby retorted stubbornly. Wu Heng opened the contract scroll. First drop of blood. The cat girl's pinky fingernail extended and gently pricked her fingertip, letting a drop of blood fall onto the scroll. The scroll absorbed the bloodstain, drawing upon Wu Heng's spiritual power, and burrowed into the cat girl's forehead. A pattern formed and then quickly disappeared. The contract was complete. Roby's body swayed slightly. A soul connection had been established between them. Go sit to the side and rest for now. Roby curtsied and then sat down to the side. Next, Annette stepped forward willingly. Do I also need to draw blood? Yes. Wu Heng opened another slave scroll. Annette, like Minnie, was from the Rabbit People clan, with an egg-shaped face, long brown hair, but her ears were white hanging rabbit ears. With caution, she pricked her finger with a dagger and dropped her blood onto the scroll. The contract was likewise complete. Wu Heng said, all right, welcome to the team. The 2 women stood up. Thank you, Master. If you're missing any daily necessities, let Minnie know. When there's time, Minnie can take you to the city for a stroll, or to the beach. If you can't swim, don't go in the water, as this is no joke. Yes, Master. That's all for today. Have fun and make sure to get to your rooms early to rest. Wu Heng went upstairs. Minnie and Andre Willow then took the 2 new girls for a tour around the island master's manor, explaining what each place was for. Some rooms housed experimenting skeletons, and it was best not to disturb them without good reason. After Wu Heng went upstairs, he checked the radio room for any messages from the wood elf Shanela, but finding none, he too went to his room to rest. The next day, in the zombie world, Wu Heng stepped out of the building and saw a convoy driving through the main gate. It stopped at the warehouse entrance in the distance, where survivors began to unload supplies. Watching from the side for a while, Chi Hengkai approached with Wang Haibing, coming from not far away. How's it going? Chi Hengkai said, the ruins from the big fire have been cleaned up. We are working on repairing the lines these past few days. In about 1 or 2 days, we should be mostly done. And the main station? The main station has agreed to a deal. They will provide the blueprints for a 200 megawatt power station, which should meet the annual electricity demand of about 220,000 households. Upon hearing this, Wu Heng felt that 220,000 households should be sufficient. Not to mention that in the zombie world, each stronghold rarely had more than a few hundred people, and on Gold and Silver Island, there were only tens of thousands of residents. Although still expanding, the population growth wasn't that rapid. It would be more than enough for his use. Pretty good, Wu Heng commented, then asked, any demands? After some bargaining, they want 30 bags of 100 kilogram grains each. The quantity was somewhat high, but not unacceptable. How will they transport it? Chi Hengkai answered,
They said we need to take over an airport, then they'll arrange for planes to come over. There was an airport in the provincial city. Alright, tell them to send the blueprints, and make sure they're detailed. Okay. Wu Hang continued to look at Wang Habing. Engineer Wang, how are things on your end? All done here too. Leader Chi Hankai took me to look at the flame furnace. It can completely meet the heat supply. Here is the blueprint I've drawn according to the original power plant. Just replace the original boiler and it will work, he explained, pulling out a blueprint. Chapter 510, knowing I have a man on the outside. The return journey took 9 days, and they stayed in Blackstone Town for another day. All in all, Wu Hang had given Wang Habing 10 days. If he couldn't produce the blueprints by then, Wu Hang would have to wonder if he had been lying before. Wu Hang looked over the blueprint, which detailed the dimensions and specifications of the boiler. So if we make it according to the blueprint, we can replace the existing boiler, right? Yes, the specifications need to be precise. Both oversized and undersized will have difficulty matching the original equipment, Wang Habing said. Wu Hang put away the blueprint. Alright, I understand. You've done well with this. It's what I should do, the base saved us, Wang Habing said, smoothing his bangs. Go do what you need to, I'll find you when you're needed. Okay, I'll get to it then, Wang Habing nodded and turned to leave. Chi Hankai still stood to one side, curiously asking, if we can really restore power, our base might be the first in the province to do so. From the current look of things, there shouldn't be a problem. Chi Hankai nodded, not saying much more. If the base could restore power, not only would various high-powered production chains be resumed, but it would also be a good thing for the survivors in the base. Life would be more convenient. Having discussed the power plant, Wu Hang continued, prepare the vehicle convoy, we're going to clear out the zombies. Okay, I'll start preparing now. Chi Hankai pressed the intercom on his chest and began organizing the convoy. Wu Hang continued to address Bone Demon Number 1, the transformed zombie king, mobilize 30,000 spear skeletons, 20,000 axe-wielding skeletons, 20,000 longbow skeletons, and the 5-headed skeleton dragons. Gather 22nd-tier mutated skeletons at the factory entrance. As the order was given, the skeletons stationed in various parts of the factory began to move as if boiling, marching in step toward the central road, converging, exiting the main gate of the factory, and standing at the ready. The Bone Demon was a 4th-tier mutated zombie killed by Wu Hang, possessing greater ability to relay information. The way Big Head Skeleton was mobilized was to move a few hundred at a time, frequently issuing orders, which reflected the distinctiveness with which the various skeletons carried out commands. However, the Bone Demon was more straightforward, he could mobilize tens of thousands of troops at once and do so simultaneously. It was more convenient for mobilization. After the skeleton army was ready, the vehicle convoy also drove out. Chi Hankai took the driver's seat, and Wu Hang got into the co-pilot's seat. Escorted by the large army, they headed toward the central district. In a city block, bodies mangled and limbs missing, the horde converged from all directions toward the center, like a black torrent surging forward. It seemed endless. Whish. The sound of objects slicing through the air above, and then a group of skeletons with wingspans of several meters swept overhead, the whizzing noise breaking the silence. Iron bombs rained down densely from the sky like a downpour. Amidst the trembling ground and clouds of dust, the torrent of zombies was instantly cleared, leaving behind nothing but limbs and broken bodies. But the explosions attracted even more of the horde, continuing to converge from all directions, reforming into a torrent, and surging forward again. Wu Hang, watching the distance of the zombies, issued an order, let the archers shoot their arrows. Whoosh! The archers behind the spear array fired their arrows all at once. The arrows rattled as they fell into the horde. Torrents of zombies were turned into porcupines, falling over and tripping the ones behind them. The skeleton dragons reloaded their magazines and took flight again, continuing to drop bombs. Once more, thick smoke rose. Uncle, there are a lot of mutated zombies gathered in that building, one level 3, the rest are level 2 and evolved zombies. Zhao flew back, pointing toward a distant building. Wu Hang glanced at the Orange Express Hotel. Through the broken mirrors and shattered glass, one could vaguely see figures standing in the dark. The highest is a 3rd-level zombie? The highest is level 3, Zhao confirmed. Wu Hang looked again at the direction of the hotel. These mutated zombies were clearly observing the battlefield and would likely choose to flee eventually. Go and call Glenda down, Wu Hang said. Okay. Zhao flew straight up. Soon, Glenda joined Zhao, appearing visibly as they flew down together. What's up? Glenda asked. Wu Hang said, Zhao found some mutated zombies over there, take the evil sword and kill them so they don't escape. Glenda glanced over, what level? Highest is a level 3 mutated zombie, equivalent to a level 15 professional. Alright,
Give me the evil sword. Wu Hang took out the evil sword, advising, don't draw the sword until you've left the skeleton troops. I know, it's not my first time using it. Glenda accepted the evil sword and darted quickly toward the hotel. After distancing from the skeleton troops, the evil sword was drawn. Sword lights flashed swiftly, and among the horde, heads fell one after another. Like plowing a deep furrow through a dense rice paddy. She charged straight into the hotel. Wu Hang then refocused his attention on the battlefield. After 4 rounds of bombardment, the speed of zombies converging on the road had begun to slow. Most were now only mangled in limbs. They continued to shuffle forward unsteadily. Advance. Wu Hang ordered. Clatter. The spear skeletons on standby rose, holding their spears, and began to advance. The charging zombies were pierced by the spears. Kill all the zombies. Glenda returned, handing him the sheathed evil sword. All are killed. Wu Hang took the evil sword and stored it away. Glenda continued to fly up to stand guard. Wu Hang then opened the experience panel to take a look. Level 17, 221,782, 265,000. This time, the experience increased by almost 90,000. Just over 40,000 short of level 18. No matter how you figure it, the next wave should ensure a level up. The thought of becoming a 5th-tier professional, among the top forces of various factions, stirred some excitement in his heart. He glanced at the sky. There was no way to continue leveling up today. The night, despite having little effect on the skeletons, still harbored many dangers. Having come this far, it would be beneficial to play it safe. I need to be more diligent, secure the furnace setup, then return to level up, Wu Hang muttered to himself. Soon, the battlefield was cleared. The bodies of the mutated zombies and evolved zombies were piled up to the side. The 3rd-level mutant zombies from the hotel were giant zombies with black keratin emerging from their bodies. Wu Hang had killed them before, but not as effortlessly as now. He began the conversion process. One skeleton after another rose from the broken flesh, and corpse cores were collected into the space ring. Then, he continued along the road, releasing corpse battlefield, with skeletons rising to join the ranks behind him. The number of skeletons he had brought was already considerable, and now the street was densely packed with them, crowded from end to end. Endless to sight. After everything had ended, Wu Hang took out the walkie-talkie. Chi Hanke, bring people over to see if there's anything to scavenge, then let's head back. Roger that. The convoy drove up from behind. The survivors scavenged the nearby shops along the way, first transporting the crucial supplies to the trucks. The rest would be carefully scavenged later by others. By the time the scavenging was near completion, the sky had also darkened. Under the escort of a large army, the convoy began to return to the factory. Through the boundary door, they returned to Gold and Silver Island. Wu Hang first went to the Skeleton Alchemy Warlock's room and delivered the newly acquired corpse cores. The research on the level 3 corpse nucleus potion seemed to have made significant progress. Several high-level alchemy skeletons had begun the stage of concocting the elixir. Completely different from the various tests in the past. This gave Wu Hang hope for the corpse core potion as well. He just hoped that he could obtain the potion before reaching level 18. After standing by and watching for a while, Wu Hang walked out of the room and headed downstairs. As soon as he reached the first floor, he saw Minnie playing shuttlecock in the yard with 2 new maids. Their giggles echoed throughout the courtyard. Upon seeing Wu Hang come out, the 2 maids immediately stopped laughing and saluted, saying, "Master." "No worries, carry on playing." Minnie then ran over and said, "Master, Shayna sent a message during the day, saying she was delayed because of clan matters. Did you receive it or read it in the records?" Minnie answered, "It's written in the Skeleton Investigator's record book." "Alright, I'll have a look." Wu Hang went back upstairs, directly into the radio room. He looked at the Skeleton Investigator's records next to Shayna's radio. There was an additional line of text. "The clan's affairs have delayed my contact with you. I'm doing well over here, don't worry." It was the same as what Minnie had said. Shayna had sent a message. There was no difference in content. After some thought, Wu Hang still picked up the microphone, trying to get in touch. "Shayna, can you hear me?" It went quiet for 3 or 4 seconds. Then, a familiar voice came from inside the radio. "Is this how you use it?" "Yes, just hold it and speak, it's very simple," Wu Hang explained, then asked, "How are things on your end? Why has it taken so long to send a message back?" "Ah." A gentle sigh was transmitted first, followed by Shayna's voice, "It's nothing, don't worry." With that response, Wu Hang felt there was more to it. "Tell me about it, maybe I can help, or at least you can share your troubles." The other side fell silent for a while, then softly said, "The Elder Council has learned that the Amber Pendant was used and discovered I have a man outside.